Welcome to the Backlash, a weekly discussion about the past, present, and future of the Western world. I'm your host, Rebecca Hargraves. You may know me from my channel, Blonde in the Belly of the Beast. This is Dave Riley. Hey, Dave, how are you? How are you doing,
I'm doing
Dave?
great today.
Great.
Thank you for having me on the show.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Vince, how are you?
Pretty good. Not
Yep.
too bad.
Yep. And Cameron, how are you doing?
I don't have the flu, so I'm doing great.
Yes, I feel like I just fell out of a garbage truck, but we're going to make the show happen anyway. Sorry I wasn't there on Monday. My kids, everybody's sick. My husband has the man flu. I'm actually worried my mom might die.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I called her yesterday. She was just like incredibly sick.
What do you have?
The flu.
Just the flu? Like the regular flu?
Yeah, it kills old people, you know.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like something like 30 or 40,000 people die from the flu every year, right?
Really?
She'll be okay. Keep Mama Blonde in your...
Don't they have vaccines for
Yeah, don't they have flu? I gotta get a flu vaccine.
Yeah, let's get...
Don't
Speaking
get
of
flu
which,
vaccines, by the way. Don't
we're
do
going to be
that.
talking about that. We're going to be talking
will.
about the mRNA, AI, Larry Ellison.
It pains me to have to discuss so many topical...
Well,
things
Donald
this
Trump is president now. We are drinking out of the fire hose,
Yeah,
okay? Do
I
you
know,
remember what it
I
was
know,
like
I know.
8 years ago?
It is like drinking out of a fire hose.
It's crazy. You'll get like 19 blockbuster stories a day, all day, every day, for months on end with like zero reprieve.
I know, but in my mind, the show was supposed to be about themes, broad themes. And so now I'm like talking about all this inauguration stuff and these hand gestures and Melania's friggin' hat. And I'm like, this is not what I wanted.
It'll change. It'll change as time goes
We'll
on.
work it
We're
out.
going to have guests on. We're going to have discussions. We're going to have, this is a less gay version of this is going to become the less gay version of all of the top political podcasts out there.
How can that be possible? Because all of you guys are homosexuals.
Whoa. As my children in the background are like eating dinner.
It's not gay unless you push back.
I thought it was if you close your eyes.
Who says that?
As long as you close your eyes. Cam,
say
you were
that.
in the Navy.
Cam, you were in the Navy. How's it going? Give us some insight. here.
Don't ask, don't tell.
That is the policy. Should we get right into it?
Let's get right into
Absolutely.
it.
Let's cover the boring stuff. So these Biden pardons, historic number of pardons, 8,047. I guess, or 8,064 clemency actions. I suppose that none of these were a real surprise. We've got Fauci, Milley, the ones with his family though. I don't know. Were you guys expecting this?
Absolutely.
I was.
It's extensive though. Were you expecting all of these? Like his brother, I was like, okay, I don't know. But there's no a publicly apparent reason for the pardon of the 4 other family members. We know that his brother probably perjured himself. What do you think about that, Cameron? Like, what do you think that they did or he's trying to prevent?
Well, the Biden family is a crime family, just like the Clinton family. And I think there's very real fear among Joe. And remember that going into politics in the United States has been a very lucrative proposition. So it means business deals of all kinds open up to you. It means untoward associations with lots of corrupt organizations, institutions, and Biden has availed himself of all of it, not just his son, but I think his whole family. So he took drastic measures to protect himself. Now, we'll have to see if that holds up. I mean, there's always something that you miss, I suppose. But it's confirmation that Biden is a crime family like the Clintons, the Bushes, and all the rest. And I think it's an indictment of the entire political class. The sad thing is, I'm not sure Trump would have done anything anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions, especially with Fauci. Are we just relieving Trump of responsibility to go after these people? And I don't really think that he would have done. What was he going to do to Fauci?
Well, speaking of Fauci, is that real? The tweet that you sent earlier?
I have no idea.
I need to pull this up. I think
Right before we
what
went live,
tweet?
I saw a tweet that said that Putin is going to, let's see if we can pull it up.
yeah, here, hold on.
It has millions of retweets, but I don't, that doesn't say anything about,
There's no community notes on it.
Vladimir Putin is reportedly seeking to have Anthony Fauci extradited to Russia to face COVID-era crimes against humanity charges as part of a deal to end the war in Ukraine. This is huge.
Hover over his profile. Hover over his name. Who is this guy?
Nick V Uncensored podcast on Rumble from England. Maybe this is Tory disinformation. You know, I guess it could be.
So I haven't confirmed this. I mean, this would be, of course, awesome. I mean,
I doubt that it's real.
but I doubt that it's real. I read that and I was like, that sounds like
fake news.
Cameron, what do you think? Do you think it's possible this is real?
No.
We wouldn't let him be extradited anyway.
Yeah, of course not.
And let's be honest, does anything ever happen to these people, like, ever? The only thing that happens is, like, under the Trump administration, a lot of the people in the Trump administration were, faced, jail time or whatever. I could hear that.
Sorry.
Are we supposed to hear that?
No.
And we talked about this a few weeks ago, right? This was in order to scare these people into never associating with Trump again, or to, they arrested a lot of the J6ers to scare Trump supporters. But that's pretty much it. We never see any politician really ever face the consequences.
I know. We elected Trump based on lock her up.
Lock her up. Yeah. Well, I mean, he was elected on immigration, but yeah, that was one of the big things. Lock her. We're going to arrest you. Never happened.
That's why I voted for him. I wanted justice. I really thought it was going to happen back then.
Retribution.
Retribution, yeah. Speaking of promises versus reality, let's play this clip.
Yes. Oh, jeez.
I teed you up, buddy.
I know you did.
We love this guy. He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one. We're closing the border, and we're drilling. After that, I'm not a dictator, okay?
President Trump, there was a lot of concern about this during the campaign. The question that only works today, are you a dictator on day one?
No. I can't imagine even being called it.
Unbelievable. Promises made.
I don't know. He did a lot. I got to say, credit where credit is due.
Yeah, he did.
Let's talk about these January 6th pardons.
That's the big one for me.
He says,
Let's play clip 2.
What do we got?
There is no
Donald
clip
Trump
2.
signs.
That second one.
This one right
Yeah,
here?
that-
There you go.
There we go. Okay.
Yes, sir. First, we have a list of pardons and commutations relating to events that occurred on January 6, 2021.
Okay, and how many people is this?
I think this order will apply to approximately 1,500 people, sir.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon.
Yes.
Full pardon.
Full pardon or commutations?
Full pardon. We have about 6 commutations in there where we're doing further research. Nice to see you again. So this is a big one. Anything you want to explain about this? We hope they get them. We hope they come out tonight, frankly. They're expecting it. Approximately 1,500 people. Six commutations.
Were there any cases you did not commute or pardon of people?
We're looking at different things, but the commutations would be the ones that we'll take a look, and maybe it'll stay that way, or it'll go to, full pardon.
And the order does require the Bureau of Prisons to act immediately on receipt of the pardons and commutation orders. Sir, this is
Amazing.
It's hard to not
awesome.
let that hit you right in the feels.
Yeah.
This second video, too, made my eyes well up with tears.
Yeah, there's a guy who was walking out of prison, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was it this one?
No.
That's the
hold
same
on.
Dad
one.
and daughter, it's the next one. January 6th holds.
Hold on a second. What?
That's not
Are
the
my
right one
links
either.
getting messed up here?
Something happened. Anyway, it was a feel-good video about a January 6th. His name escapes me, but he was holding his daughter, and his daughter was saying, "Daddy's home."
Oh, man.
It's
Yeah,
all right. We'll
I've
just
got
have the
it.
link itself next time.
Hold on a second. I'll pull it up. I've got it right up here.
Did you retweet it?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Boom.
Daddy's home.
Oh, man.
Daddy's home.
That's
that
awesome.
One, that one hits you right
It hits you. It hits you right in the feels. He also pardoned Ross Ulbricht. Why did I say
Ross
that weird?
Ulbricht.
Ross Ulbricht.
Ulbricht.
Yep.
Let's see if
His
we've got
founder of
this.
Silk Road. He got a life sentence, 2 life sentences.
2 life sentences
Yeah.
plus 30 years
Yeah.
for crimes that he actually didn't commit, as far as I'm aware. From what I understand, Ross Ulbricht, so like he made this decentralized website where anybody could sell anything, and the currency that they used was Bitcoin. That's actually one of the ways I first heard about Bitcoin, was from somebody that was on Silk Road. And they basically charged him with all of the crimes that the users of his platform committed, which I thought was like the whole point of Section 230, to give the platform owner immunity from what the people on the platform do.
And it was a corrupt judge, right?
Yeah, it was a corrupt judge. I'm going to have to see if I can get...
I remember Nick first talking about this, like he was calling for him to be pardoned a long time ago. I think that's where I first heard of all this
Ross
stuff.
Ulbricht. Yeah, that and like the Bitcoin community has been like really, really...
Oof.
Really instrumental. So this is the judge that actually sentenced him. What was her name? Catherine Forrest. And she sentenced him because he was white. We also had a tweet from Trump today. I called the mother of Ross Ulbricht to let her know that in honor of her and the libertarian movement, which supported me so strongly, it was my pleasure to have just signed a full and unconditional pardon of her son Ross. The scum that worked to convict him were some of the same lunatics who were involved in the modern-day weaponization of government against me. He was given 2 life sentences plus 40 years. Ridiculous.
He was in jail for 12 years.
Amen. Yes, he was.
That's crazy.
And then we've got, this was the first photo of Ross being freed from prison.
Oh, man.
And let me see if I can pull up. This was the judge...
Sentenced because he was white. The judge who
Right.
sentenced him gave him life without parole because Ross is white. Catherine Forrest suggested that because of Ross's privilege, she was giving a much harsher sentence than she would give to a drug dealer from the Bronx.
This is from the case. It says, there appears to be in some of these articles that were presented to the court some view that there is a moral ambiguity about some of the drug distribution. There is no moral ambiguity about it. It's just wrong. And that is what our democratic process had said, and that there is a way to change the law, but it is not doing what occurred. No drug dealer from the Bronx selling meth or heroin or crack has ever made these kinds of arguments to the court. It's a privileged argument. It's an argument from one of privilege.
Do you have an
And
early
we
life check on this?
We all know what it means when people start talking about privilege. They're talking about white privilege. And
Did
what,
you just keyword search Jewish?
yeah, you just, any website, you can
Control
just
F,
keyword search,
Jew.
Control F. Catherine got
Oh, there it
a
is.
big award from the Jewish Children's Museum, which is interesting. It's just interesting. It's interesting to point these connections out. And then, of course, you've got Donald Trump talking about how the same people persecuting Ross were the ones persecuting him. And then we see this woman. So
And we all know who the main people were involved in the impeachment and all that stuff.
in the Russiagate nonsense, all of it.
Let's talk about how he failed. My favorite part.
Oh,
of the,
vey. Come on,
okay.
no blackpilling.
We're gonna do
Jeez.
some blackpilling. All right, everybody needs to come
Wait,
down.
this is
from
awesome. This is a big thing. The release of the political prisoners.
I know
This is,
it might not be that good though. We'll talk about it in a second.
how could it not be?
be?
Oh, by the way, we have entropy. We
Entropy
found the
stream is
entropy
up.
super chats, and we're gonna read those entropies at the end of this stream. The ones that we didn't get to because we couldn't figure out how to get it up. We got it up. Super chat the show. We're gonna read all the super chats
And then
at
the
the end
two
of the stream.
from last week that didn't come through.
There was way more
I don't
than,
know.
and it's actually interesting because I can't. This is one of the things that I was like, as the intro was going, I was like, oh no, because we had about 10 or 15 entropy super chats from last week.
Okay.
And when we went live, all of the old ones disappeared,
I have two.
and now the new ones are coming in. I should have screenshotted them before. Because
We're good from now on.
we're going to read
good
them.
from now
We
on.
can read them from now on. But it was a little bit of a learning curve getting that figured out. So anyway, where are we at? What story are we on now?
Yeah, thanks guys. Ruining my flow.
Totally.
To have an on-air
totally.
tech meeting. What a nightmare. Okay, so he didn't free Snowden.
Well, he never
Chauvin.
did. He promise to free Snowden?
No. But what he should have done also was pardoning the Whitmer kidnappers. Contrary to popular belief, there are some federal charges there. So check out Radix Verum on Twitter. She has been working on a documentary called Kidnap and Kill, an FBI terror plot. She is, I don't think that she would be mad at me for saying this. She's totally obsessed with this case because it's such a miscarriage of justice. So she's been talking about this a lot on Twitter. I know she needs another round of funding to finish her documentary. That's cool. She's great. So check out her Twitter. You can find out where to send money to the two guys that are still in there, Adam Fox and Barry Croft. So check out Radix. He definitely should have done that. Chauvin, I don't know.
Well, Chauvin, I mean, I guess we're kind of at the point now.
Hold on. The Whitmer kidnapping case is something I covered extensively. It's a crazy case because even like liberal news outlets were saying that wouldn't have happened without the FBI being involved in it. Like BuzzFeed News did a whole piece on it, and they said that this would have never went down unless the FBI was involved in this. And they said the FBI was involved even down to like purchasing the van.
Oh, yeah.
Purchasing the hotel rooms. There were FBI agents and FBI informants all involved. Through like 60% of the people involved were FBI agents or FBI informants.
Wow. Yes.
It's a crazy case. One of the main agents involved actually got arrested. And so he had to recuse himself from the case. He got arrested after, this all went down. He got arrested for beating his wife after they went to a swingers party.
Oh, great. They sound like upstanding citizens.
I heard about this.
Yeah, you heard about that.
I heard about this. Wasn't there somebody else that was like waving a dildo around the FBI office that was involved in the case?
I thought this was a family show.
It is. And the people doing that at the FBI should be fired so that I don't have to say it.
It is a family show. My theory is that, though, she probably did something with a black dude and he got pissed and then he beat her up and then he went to prison over this. I think that's what happened.
Pure speculation.
Pure speculation, but he beat her up directly after they got home from a swingers party. That's official news.
That's incredible.
Anyway.
And these are the people in our FBI. These are the people that are currently raising hell about Kash Patel. Like, if you appoint, I just saw a tweet, like, if you appoint Kash Patel, it's going to destroy the FBI. And it's like, maybe the FBI deserves to be destroyed at this point.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
what do they even do?
It hasn't worked for 75 years. They've basically been the law enforcement arm of the mafia. So maybe we don't need an FBI. Maybe we can just get rid of them.
I know you guys are all excited about January 6th. I am excited about it too. This was a miscarriage of justice. I'm glad these guys are out. However, Black Pilled has brought up a very good point. Can you pull up this tweet?
Devin Stack.
He has. Is this even a good thing for morale? He says, it's actually not worth it. Nothing is more radicalizing than political prisoners. Ask Hitler or Nelson Mandela. I read that and I was like, ooh. Devin Stack with the hot take.
Now, I love Devin Stack, but doesn't make any sense.
I don't understand
Cameron,
it.
what do you think?
I don't understand the position. Cameron?
I didn't hear the question.
What do you think about the J6ers being released?
No, that wasn't the question. The question
What do you
is,
think about this tweet about that?
I think it's a great thing. And I think Trump deserves full credit for this one. I was going to say so in just a moment, but I do think the main story is missed, and that is if the circumstances were switched, if these were Antifa people or folks on the left, BLM or something like that had been arrested, there would have been all manner of nonprofits, of the ACLU, of legal organizations of every kind that would have demanded their release, that would have raised money to get them out.
Yeah. For
January 6th folks who've been rotting in there for years, and obviously it has been a miscarriage of justice, and they have been asymmetrically targeted by the government, to whom could they turn?
Right.
Well, there is nobody. Now that's what the right wing lacks. That's why there is no organized right. And it is a miscarriage of justice that it took a president to be elected to actually pardon these people. That is the true problem here. And I think that is instructive. It should be instructive for anybody that really cares about rebalancing the system, which is something that Trump talked about in his inaugural address. If you don't have those organizational structures in place and you're reliant upon the president to get elected to enact justice, that tells you everything you need to know about the structure of government and how biased it is against us.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And then the left has the Innocence Project, and at the behest of Kim Kardashian, they're getting people off like Julius Jones, who obviously did it. And Rodney Reed. I think they're taking a look at the Scott Peterson case. It's like, okay, all these people did it. All right, can you guys focus on January 6ers or something like that. So the institutional power is there if we can organize on the right and get some funding over there.
All of the inauguration protests. Remember Trump's first inauguration? Do you guys remember?
I was there.
Yeah, you were
Vaguely.
there.
I was there.
It was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I was at the Franklin Square riot. They were like burning cars. They were ripping up the bricks from the ground and throwing them at cops. They were using dumpsters as like shields so that they could do war with the cops. It was a war zone, 100%. I mean, I had like grenades, those flashbang grenades going off around me. I don't know if I ever released the video from that. I might just still have all that.
Shuttershot was there. Remember Shuttershot 45?
No.
You don't remember Shuttershot 45?
No.
He has a lot of footage on that. But yeah, they had. I think there was a lot of people. Every single one of them had their charges dropped. They beat up Capitol Police too. But they went against them. There was a mob. I remember seeing this video. There was a mob of Antifa going up against a mob of Capitol Police, and they had like flagpoles, and they were beating the Capitol Police with these flagpoles. And every single one of them had their charges dropped. Every single one. And there were like millions of dollars in damage. Like, so, this shouldn't even be a question. This pardoning of these J6ers. There should be more. There should be more than 1,500.
Totally,
I'm not exactly sure how many people exactly got arrested. I'd like to know if was Joe Biggs one of these people that got pardoned. He should be pardoned.
Joe Biggs got pardoned.
Joe Biggs got pardoned. Okay, good. The leader of the Proud Boys,
Enrique Tarrio.
He got pardoned.
He got pardoned.
Okay, good.
Yep.
The Oath Keepers guy, he got out, right? What
Yeah, I think
about Nick? What was his name? Nick. He just had a kid. He used to work for Milo.
Nick
I think.
Sotor?
I forget his last name. But yeah, I mean, this shouldn't even, this tweet from Blackpilled. I love Devin Stack. We should have him on the show. But the thing is that people are forgetting about these people who are locked away. People are forgetting about these people, and eventually, they would have been completely forgotten. So it's not really radical. It's not really radicalizing anyone because as time passes, they're just going to be more and more and more forgotten. I'm glad that Trump released them, and this was one of the things that I was looking forward to in the Trump administration. I said, if he does this and he gets some handle on immigration, it will be a successful presidency. The president is not the guy that's going to give us everything. He's just not. A lot of the stuff that he's doing is going to be undone with the next Democrat president. A lot of the immigration stuff.
Right.
We have to do it. It has to come from the ground up. A lot of people mistakenly look at a president as a person that's just going to save everyone and save all. I mean, it's just,
That's not how it works here.
It's not how it works, man.
No other president would have done this. If Marco Rubio got in there,
Nope.
he wouldn't have freed the J6ers.
Nope.
Ron DeSantis, he wouldn't have freed the J6ers. J.D. Vance.
And not only that, but I think that, like, speaking to Devin's point, the idea of having these people like still locked away as though that would somehow be radicalizing. I mean, I think now the fact that they're out and that they can share their stories and that they can do a speaking tour, that they can start a group, start a movement, whatever, after the fact. I think that is going to be more radicalizing.
This is a clear win for Trump. It pains me to disagree with Devin Stack, but Devin, you're wrong about this.
Well, the radicalization comes when people are fully disillusioned with the rule of law and the structure of government. In other words, when trust and faith in the system collapses. Sadly speaking, I think a lot of people are going to take the wrong lesson from this. They're going to say, we elected Trump and he enacted justice. But that belies the systemic injustice that we're dealing with on the right and in general in the United States, which basically prioritizes or fetishizes, it gives special rights to minority groups based on their race or their gender, things of that nature, over average white citizens, right? That is built into the legal framework. Donald Trump enacting this decree through presidential executive order does not change that. Only an organized resistance and a complete reorganization of the government can do that. That's what it's going to take. Radicalization is going to come, but it's going to come when that trust, that faith in the system breaks. Right now, it has been restored by Donald Trump. I suspect that when you get further damage to the economy, and I think when people realize that one man can't fix everything, that's when you're going to get the realization that we need to actually take action, and we're going to get there.
Right, and I think that he's done a lot of good stuff that is, it's a win for all of us. It's all feel-good stuff. Of course, January 6th is really important. The DEI stuff is important also, but that's more of a symbolic victory, I think, like putting all DEI people, federal employees on paid leave. I was like, all right, like that's great. And that makes me feel good. That's how I know that he's doing this for the people. How much of an effect is that really going to have? Some of this foreign aid stuff was a little bit troubling. There was some pro-Israel executive orders for sure.
There was 4 or 5 of them from what I remember hearing about.
Right. So there's this freezing of foreign aid. I think that this got community noted at some point. Is there a tweet that comes up right after that? There we go. Yeah. This community notes is really funny. President Trump places freeze on all foreign aid for 90 days. The community note says Israel, Jordan, and Egypt may still receive foreign aid. They're included in long-term packages that date back decades and are in some cases governed by treaty obligations. That is true. Some of the biggest recipients of U.S. assistance, Israel, $3.3 billion a year, Egypt, $1.5 billion, and Jordan, $1.7 billion a year, are unlikely to see dramatic reductions, as those amounts are included in these long-term packages that date back decades.
Do you know why Egypt and Jordan are the number 2 and number 3 spots? Because we pay them to keep the peace with Israel.
So it's all foreign aid for Israel.
It's all foreign aid for Israel. Yeah,
basically, yeah. And so I think I'm not looking at a list.
No, that's literally it. Like I'm not even.
No,
like,
yeah, 100%.
Like, 100%. You can look that up.
That's true. That's true, Vince. But the second reason is because Egypt is an unstable country, and you basically have to have a military authoritarian structure to keep it in place. Jordan's not all that different, but to your point, it is also a backdoor benefit to Israel. But that also tells you that if there's further destabilization in Gaza, if that spreads to the West Bank, that further destabilizes Egypt. And if Egypt depends upon us to keep them in power through bribes, as you said, that tells you how delicate the situation is. In other words, they could go from an authoritarian military junta, which is basically what runs the country, to an Islamist Brotherhood revival very, very quickly. And just to be clear, I know this is a bit of a tangent. I think that's exactly what is going to happen.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, we've got one of these EOs that the president signed lifted the sanctions that have been placed on the radical, Kahanist, right-wing, crazy settlers that were destabilizing the West Bank and obviously attempting to move into Gaza. And as I think, I can't remember if it was a part of that EO or if it was a part of another one, but basically they lifted the restriction on the United States sending 1-ton aerial bombs to Israel.
I saw that. I saw that.
So we will now obviously be selling them some big bombs. And then also in relationship with the lifting of the sanctions on the radical settlers, Trump placed sanctions on the ICC and the ICJ, the International Criminal Court and International, Center of Justice or whatever. Now, like, I'm personally against both of those as they're globalist organizations, right? I mean, like, imagine doing something completely legal in America and then having the ICJ, like, coming in and being like, hey, we're going to prosecute you for your speech, buddy. Like, I don't like the ICC. I don't like the ICJ. And I think that a lot of people, frankly, are kind of coping a little bit with their, with the cases that came down where Netanyahu and his clan was found guilty of genocide in Gaza, which is like obvious. But the real win would be having that happen in the Israeli courts, not happening, from like a third party,
which would never happen,
globalist, organization. So I mean, like, it was funny. I was watching one of my favorite podcasts is this Rabbi David Bar Haim and Jonathan Pollard, the traitor spy.
I saw that.
And so I watched that like religiously to see what those guys are talking about. And they're, on the one hand, like very enthused about the EOs that Trump has signed, but on the other hand, they're like not really pleased with what's going on. They confirmed in that Donald Trump and Netanyahu are in fact at odds with one another. Trump does not like Netanyahu. I'll pull that clip out and post it on my Twitter later. But one of the interesting things is they were talking about what the solution for Gaza is, and it's sounding very much like we're going to be turning that into the Riviera of the Middle East.
Nice.
So we're going to be putting a big casino in Gaza. And look, as
we
long
we have a video along those lines, don't we?
do we? I'll have to.
We need Indians to run it though, not.
Oh, actually, I don't know that we do. I saw a video of Trump talking about Gaza, beautiful land.
Well, we do have this clip, and this is Donald Trump on Gaza and the ceasefire.
Then that you can keep the ceasefire in Gaza. and conclude the 3 phases of this deal?
I'm not confident. It's not our war, it's their war, but
Apologize.
I'm not confident, but I think they're very weakened on the other side.
Do you support the 2-state
Gaza, boy, I looked at a picture of Gaza. Gaza is like a massive demolition site. That place it's really got to be rebuilt in a different way.
Do you plan to help rebuilding Gaza?
My mind. You know, Gaza is interesting. It's a phenomenal location. On the sea,
It's just a real estate
best
guy.
weather. You know, everything's good. It's like some beautiful things could be done with it, but it's very interesting. But some fantastic things could be done with Gaza.
How do you see the future in governance for Gaza?
Well, it depends. I can't imagine you could have, well, you certainly can't have the people that were there. Most of them are dead.
Good Lord. Then Candace
So-
Owens
He died
posted,
like a dog.
Candace Owens posted this
This is,
picture of Gaza and just how decimated it is.
Yeah.
This is just reprehensible. This is reprehensible. And Donald Trump should be ashamed of himself for saying what he did. There are tens of thousands of people that are dying, that are disfigured, children who've been killed.
True.
And the war that goes on because we permit it to go on.
Yes.
And all he did was grant the Israeli government, his personal animus with Netanyahu aside, whatever arms, whatever military, political, diplomatic resources that the United States can muster at their disposal to continue to prosecute what is a genocide. And his comment on that is that it's good real estate, that maybe you could build a resort because it's beachfront property. That is asinine. And the sad thing is that, as Dave alluded to earlier, we didn't pull out of anything because of the interests of America, because this was an America first agenda. We did so in the name of a foreign power that's butchering 2 million people, less than that now, in Gaza, and that will almost certainly destabilize the region, as I alluded to a moment ago. This is a humanitarian disaster, and the fact that the President of the United States, who's supposed to represent us, would speak in such desensitized terms tells you everything you need to know about who's really driving his administration.
Fair point.
That's
Very
absolutely
fair
true.
point.
Yep.
I think you're right. I don't think anything should be done with Gaza, and I think I said this on Twitter. I don't think anything should be done with Gaza without the consent of the Palestinians that live there.
Of course.
Like, obviously. Like, if Trump does want to go in with the Saudis or the Emiratis or whatever, and they want to, pour a bunch of money in and start developing it, that's fine by me as long as the Palestinians sign off on it. Because it's their country and they should have autonomy. They should be in control of their future. They have not been in control of their future for 75 years, much like the Americans haven't been in control of their destiny for the past 75
They're
years.
not going to be awarded national sovereignty under the Trump administration, though.
No.
And I think that needs to be the focus of the inauguration. And what about this executive order he signed to deport students that supposedly support Hamas?
This is ridiculous.
Bro, what are you
saw that.
doing?
This is ridiculous. Here, we got it up. I don't know if there's
Trump signs executive order permitting the deportation of foreign students who express support for organizations like Hamas or Hezbollah, viewed as domestic
How
terrorists.
about we just deport all foreign students?
Yeah, why do we have any foreign students?
Wait,
How about
why
that?
do we even have foreign students?
Right. Well, and it's a good point, especially because the Trump administration has been on record talking about how they want to staple green cards to the backs of
the
people's
old
diplomas.
Charlie Kirk guy.
The old
Charlie Kirk, yeah,
And so
yeah.
what winds up inevitably happening with a system like that is that these colleges become these diploma mills and immigration mills, where all of these that's how they're going to funnel into the country. It's not going to stop immigration. It's just going to enrich the schools that participate in those programs that not only take the federal money, but then they take all of the egregious tuition fees and student loans.
It's crazy.
I mean, I remember when I was in college, it was $50,000 a semester. So like $100,000 a year. And that was, 15 years ago. So I'm sure it's only gotten worse.
Well, a lot of the foreign students can pay cash, right? They can
Yes.
pay. And so a lot of these, actually the F1 visas are sort of a bigger racket than the H1B visas, because there's like 500,000 F1 visas every single year. and there's a lot of colleges that are just created on the foundation of this F1 visa scam. So there's a couple of colleges that actually, I think the Barack Obama administration, I think their immigration agents raided. There was one college, this was back when it was the INS, before ICE, and there was this one college that was basically like, I think 50% of their students were on foreign visas, and they were paying, they're paying cash, they're paying for the entire tuition, and they had to have employment under the student visa, and so they just worked at 7-Eleven. Most of them were Indians. And so there's, I think it was Temple. I can't remember what the college was called or what the university was called, but most of these students only went to class twice a day or twice a week, and they were remote. They were going to school remotely. Yeah. And so it's like a total scam, total racket. We shouldn't even have any of this.
And so again, this is what they want to do to students that criticize this.
Yeah.
Right? This is what Israel did to Gaza.
So
I'm going to zoom in a little bit.
That's
Donald
just
Trump
incredible.
Proclaimed that he was a champion of free speech. He's
Right.
talked about that before. And obviously he's not, because this is the reason why these students are in trouble, is because they are calling attention to what is almost certainly a genocide and a war that the United States is subsidizing on behalf of a foreign power to kill tens of thousands of people, as I said a moment ago. It's not because the foreign student aid program or foreign students in general is out of control, though it certainly is. Vince is correct about that. But yet again, that has nothing to do with it. This is all about being subservient to a foreign power. So those of you out there that are fixated on the notion that Donald Trump is going to prioritize or reprioritize America's interests, it's transparently clear that that is not the case.
Yes, and this executive order on the students and free speech was totally eclipsed by what he did with TikTok, which was just an extension of the 75 days. And everybody's freaking out about that. I think that he very successfully garnered support within the youth and Gen Z. But it's not like that's going to be a free speech platform anyway.
And there are already, I don't know if we have a link to it, but there are
we
already...
do. Look, Free Palestine now banned from TikTok.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where is this?
Keep going
There
down.
was there it is.
So if you say Free Palestine, you will get banned or the comment removed from TikTok.
It's now considered hate speech, automatically removed.
Wow.
Look at that.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yep.
I wonder what's going to happen after the 75 days if someone's going to be able to buy it.
I bet Musk will.
I think there have been several offers. I think even Rumble might have put in an offer. There have been
Where are
lots
they
of
getting
letters.
so much money from, Rumble?
Well, Rumble's getting it from Howard Lutnick through Tether, right? We talked about him on our last episode. Howard Lutnick, of course, was the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, who holds all of the treasuries for Tether and is also a major investor in a company called Satellogic, which is like a global worldwide spy satellite image thing. And what's interesting, too, is, and we might get to it later, some of the same ties between Howard Lutnick and Satellogic are also involved in a story that we're going to cover coming up about these mRNA vaccines.
Oh, Oracle and Palantir.
So we'll get to there later, but it's just, I was going to say it's also...
Don't forget Howard Lutnick's involvement in AIPAC too, Dave.
Well, and I was going to say, speaking of AIPAC...
Don't forget that.
Speaking of AIPAC, the guy that apparently got this ceasefire deal put together, Witkoff, right? He is now on the outs with the Israel lobby. They don't like him. They don't like the ceasefire. They don't like the hostage agreement. In fact, they're incredibly pissed about it. They think it's a massive L. And according to journalist J. Arthur Bloom, this is how the Israel lobby really works and why it should be subjected to existing U.S. laws and foreign influence, because Sagar Enjeti was talking about this whisper campaign that's spreading through D.C. against Steve Witkoff for negotiating the ceasefire deal. And I can confirm that, they are not happy about this.
Of course they're not.
They're
Because
definitely
they
not
just want to
happy.
completely destroy Gaza
Correct.
and annex the land.
There was something called the General's Plan, I think, that they came up with, and that included shutting off the water, shutting off the food supply, shutting off all aid, and then basically like starving everybody in Gaza to death. Like, I shit you not, that is exactly what their plan was, and they're upset that they weren't able to carry that out under the Biden administration. And now, with this ceasefire deal, they're stuck. They don't really. Where can they go from here, other than obviously sabotaging the ceasefire deal, which they'd already done for 8 months?
Few people don't understand like the level of like how crazy this is. Like in 1948, fewer people died in the Nakba.
Jeez.
Than how many died during this?
People don't even know what the
we
Nakba
don't even call
is.
it a war. It's just a complete genocide. Yeah, people don't even know what the Nakba is.
Right.
Right. I mean,
people don't know what the Holodomor is.
They don't. Yeah.
I'm sure our astute audience does, in fact, know about the Holodomor and the Nakba and the major genocides that have taken place in the world over the past 150 years.
This is their plan. This is their plan. And Syria is connected, right?
Yep.
They've been trying to get Syria for a long time.
Yeah.
They weren't successful because of like Russia was protecting Syria. Now that Russia's weakened somewhat, they were able to get Syria. They tried to get Syria under the Barack Obama administration.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to get it under the Trump
Operation
administration.
Timber Sycamore, right?
There was a lot of these CIA operations. Yeah, they tried to fund the rebels to overthrow Bashar al-Assad. They tried to do they remember the chemical attack bullshit that they did.
The
under
white
Trump
hats.
to try to get him the white helmets. Yeah,
white helmets. Yeah.
And Iraq was part of this. Afghanistan's part of this. We just talked about how Egypt and Jordan are part of this since the 6-Day War. Even before that. Iran is the final boss. Iran is the final. So here you go. Trump appointees who want to avoid war with Iran. Iran is the final boss. This is the final piece to the puzzle. These were the countries that were listed on these memos that were going throughout Washington D.C. back in the late 90s. We talked about the clean break memo, I think, a few weeks ago as well. Like this was the plan. And of course they're going to be upset about it because they're not able to complete their, this step to the plan.
Mm-hmm. Right. And in fact,
Well,
I think
go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
No,
Go
I
ahead,
was just
please.
going to say that I think they're starting to view Trump as a potential obstacle to those goals.
Well, they did in 2016 for sure.
Yeah.
There was a revamp to the Project for a New American Century that they tried to do in 2017. Bill Kristol, one of the main seed funders of this was Paul Singer, right? And so they were trying to do like another Project for a New American Century, which is where the Clean Break Memo originates from. And they said, I think there was an article from Vox or something where Bill Kristol said, we can't do this while Trump is in office. Like, it's not going to work. We have to put it on the back burner.
Interesting. Sorry, Cam, did you have?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, look, this is not over, okay? So I'm not sure what the particulars were or are negotiated between Witkoff and the Netanyahu government. Remember, Netanyahu has some domestic trouble as well. He's facing some corruption charges. And so the war must go on. But the population in Israel, from what I gather, has rendered a judgment, and they want Gaza wiped or annexed. They want the population there killed or expelled. So this is going to resume. Now, Netanyahu has a history of pissing off American presidents. He did not get along with Barack Obama, for instance. Supposedly, according to Politico, there were shouting matches between Netanyahu and Biden, as an example. That doesn't matter because of AIPAC. That doesn't matter because of Howard Lutnick. That doesn't matter because of all of the oligarchs in the United States that wield tremendous power. So I say all that to say this. What has happened over the last few days, this supposed ceasefire, is unsustainable. It will not hold up. The only break that the United States can make with Israel to stop all of this is to cease and desist from providing them with arms or military support. We have done neither. Until you see that, there will be no change in policy on their end at all. So regard this as a temporary reprieve. The other thing to note is that it may be the case that, and I think it is the case, that the Israelis view Iran as the final boss. I think that's a good way to look at it, Vince. But it is not the final boss in reality. What is actually happening is a broader arrangement of Islamic countries that are rising against Israel. And I've mentioned this to you guys before. Turkey now being in Syria is basically an Islamist state adjacent to Israel. That was a strategic blunder on their part, and there's already friction between those two countries. There may also be some backroom deals between the Iranians and the Turks. And remember, the Turks are also close to the Russians, who are signing some kind of military agreement with Iran. So not all is what it seems. However, what is absolutely certain is that Netanyahu and the Mithrahi, the fundamentalists in Israel, who are dominating Israeli politics right now, will not rest until Gaza is destroyed and the West Bank will be next. That's where we're headed. Trump will not stop that.
Oh,
Yep.
that is bleak.
Not good.
Did you see Zelensky also call for U.S. troops to be alongside them on the front lines recently?
Great. We can send the transgenders out.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. I like it.
Take care of two problems at once.
That's the only reason. I think it was the someone was it the I saw this on Twitter. I think it was the Iranian some politician in Iran tweeted out that the only reason why, I mean, this is obvious, right? The only reason why Israel is lasting as long as it is because of the U.S. giving them all of the weapons that we give them, right? So without the U.S. support, just like with Ukraine, there wouldn't be so many lives lost. So those lives are like on our backs, right?
Yes,
those thousands of Palestinians are on us. The thousands of Russians and Ukrainians dead, they're on us. And that's the way to look at it. That's the way I look at it.
And this is the issue, right? And this is the epicenter of everything that we discussed. I mean, for those of you listening, this is why we called this show The Backlash. What is the real daylight between Biden and Trump? Well, maybe there is some on immigration. We'll have to see. Maybe there is some on the economy. We'll have to see. Where there is absolutely no daylight whatsoever is our relationship with Israel and our posture vis-a-vis the Russians and all the overseas enemies that the Zionists have so picked for us. That remains intact. So what you get, more or less, is continuity. Now, why is that? Because what we're up against is machine politics, the machine politics of AIPAC. And as far as I can tell, all they really did was switch sides from the left to the right. So they have even more carte blanche, as far as I'm concerned, with the Trump administration than they did under Biden.
Well, that's not good.
He did do a few more things that I think were probably symbolic, although may have more meat on the bone than I'm anticipating. He withdrew from the World Health Organization. Well, this was part of an executive order. So I think that this was a nod to the people. I'm not really sure that this is going to have many implications. Nonetheless, I'm still happy about it. One of the things that he did do that made me very happy was the back-paying soldiers that were let go for not getting the vaccine. This is going to cost the federal government hundreds of millions of dollars.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Maybe they'll fire some more IRS agents or something.
Yeah.
Well, isn't he getting rid of the IRS altogether?
We'll see
We're
about that.
replacing
That'd
it
be
with the ERS, the External Revenue Service.
I don't know. Listen, if it's not going to happen.
Well,
but if it ever does happen where he gets rid of the income tax, that would be awesome.
I was going to say, there's like a lot of hopium going around.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of like,
It's
he's
not
like,
gonna happen.
he's proposing this or he's proposing that. Just like,
Let's just
remember,
wait until he does it.
wait until it's signed.
Right.
Wait until it's been delivered and keep his feet to the fire because Trump is responsive to the base. It does seem like, the Ross Ulbricht pardon was way out there. The January 6th pardon, nobody else would have done that. And so I think that we do still have a certain amount of power.
We have a lot of power.
To pressure him, to be loud, to use our platforms
But
when
it's
we
a mixed
can to
bag.
hold
I'd
his
rather
feet to
have
the
a
fire.
leader who was ideologically oriented and had a moral center, which he clearly lacks. He's a populist. His ego and his narcissism are controlled by whether or not the base likes and accepts him. That's why he did these things. Do I really believe that he did them because he believes that these were miscarriages of justice and he wants to do these things for the people?
Right.
No, because of everything that we just talked about with
Yes,
Gaza
you're
and
right.
Israel, because nothing else really matters to me right now. I understand that you guys want to take successes as they come, but there has to be a healthy balance with realism for what is to come, or everybody is going to be crestfallen when he inevitably does not deliver, which is why I wanted to talk about this mRNA vaccine thing.
Well, hold on. With the the EO, what we're talking about with the what were you just talking about right now?
The bad paying soldiers
withdrew from the World Health Organization.
The soldiers.
Oh yeah.
So the thing is that with I totally just completely forgot what I was going to say. Never mind. Just move on. Just move on. Just move on.
Go on with notes. Okay. This mRNA vaccine thing leads me to believe that this is part of a broader COVID-related scheme, and that all of his overtures with Fauci and all this other stuff is a cover because he's going to get paid out for these future mRNA vaccine projects. Is this tinfoily?
No, I don't think it's tinfoily at all.
Oh, hold on. I remember what I was going to say. So the only reason, do you remember when J6 first happened, when January 6th first happened, all of the Republican politicians were totally like bashing them and like going along with the left, going along with the... So it was us, right? It was us that sort of like normalized this position of they should be released, right? We fought and we never stopped fighting to normalize that position because it was like totally unheard of when this first happened. There was no Republican politicians that were ever talking about letting them out. They were all like, yeah, hang them. Well, it's because we had the moral courage to fight for this that it was normalized and that it got done. And it's the same thing we talk about on the show all the time. It's the moral courage, right? If you have the moral courage and you continue on with that moral courage, then you will eventually win that battle. We did it with abortion, right? With Roe versus Wade. That was the only thing that Republicans held on to was abortion. And then they got it done. They got a big win on that. Everything else they completely let go of. So it's those things that we believe, or that you should believe, as a conservative, as a Christian, that you should hold on to and you should fight for, no matter how unpopular it becomes, because eventually it will become the majority of opinion, and it will be normalized, and we will win. So
right. I mean,
I agree. Yeah.
Look at what just happened. He banned the gay and the trans flags from being displayed on the buildings.
Yeah, I don't know why he did that. He had the one flag policy executive order. I don't know what that was.
That's purely a symbolic victory, though. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the one thing that I'm not going to let go of is Zionism in the American government, and that is so baked into the cake that I just can't take any of these other wins. But that has to come
from us. That has to come from the ground. Like, people have to start to... There's this theory...
I've got high hope for Barron.
Barron Trump. There's this theory that it's called the 10% theory, I think. I don't remember what the exact theory is called. But if 10% of the population believes something to be true, then eventually the majority of the population is eventually going to adopt that position.
Right.
So if we just keep going, and as Cameron talks about all the time, as things begin to, as the dissolution continues and people have no faith left in the institutions at all, eventually like this will happen. So we just have to keep fighting, keep pushing.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. The mRNA vaccine is a misnomer, though. I shouldn't say that.
We have a video of Larry Ellison talking about this mRNA
Let's play that
vaccine.
first.
Let's get this up here.
Once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again using AI, in about 48 hours. So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of AI and the promise of the future.
Wow, what could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong with that? Now,
I saw that and I was like, no, this is like a future that I'm... Well, they're going to be misdiagnosing people with cancers that they don't have, so that they have to adopt this mRNA vaccine. And they're going to make hundreds and hundreds of millions and billions of dollars. That's what's going to happen here.
Now, of course, Larry Ellison, the guy who we just saw in that video...
Well, there's something before this, though.
Is there?
Is there not?
Maybe.
Larry Ellison AI mRNA vaccine.
That was what we just
That was
watched.
what we just watched.
Okay,
right?
okay, yeah.
And
There
so
we go.
Larry Ellison is a, he is CIA. He is NSA. He runs Oracle.
That's
Which
why
is,
I thought I had that up there, but I thought I put that in the thing.
is the backbone, basically, of the NSA's spying software. And of course, he goes on. There's some videos where he's talked about the amount of intelligence that is gathered through like American Express and Visa and like where you spend all of your money.
It's right there.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. So maybe there was a tweet from Vince.
Oh, there we
about
go.
this.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Vince, take it away.
Yeah, Oracle started as a CIA project. It gets its name from the 1977 CIA operation with the same code name. And up until, I think, the early 2000s, Oracle's very first customer was the CIA. And it's the same story with Palantir. And this is Larry Ellison's Oracle. I think he was ousted from Oracle at first. I don't know if he's back actually with Oracle again, but I remember him being ousted from Oracle. But like this is, these are the people that you do not want in your administration. You don't want them anywhere near your administration. You don't want them anywhere near the government. Right. This is the CIA. This is the deep state that Trump promised to fight against.
And it's worse than that, because if this is the CIA, then let's see what the CIA is actually saying behind closed doors. Let's take a look.
The renewal of the Jewish state is something that I think touches all of us. For 2,000 years, we were a stateless people. And now we have a country of our own, defended by all the brave men and women of the IDF. So anything we can do to support them, who devote their lives for preserving the state of Israel, keeping the people safe, and allowing our state to continue in sometimes in very, very difficult situations. I have been to Israel. I have been to the border. I have spent time to the people who govern the state of Israel, and I feel a deep emotional connection to the state of Israel and the Israeli people.
You are an high-tech person. What do you think about Israeli startups and
You're an
high-tech
APAC person.
phenomena?
Oh well, after Silicon Valley, there's an area. Herzliya has probably got more startups than any other place other than Silicon Valley in Northern California. So we've actually acquired a number of Israeli companies. We have 2 CEOs at Oracle. One's name is Safra Katz, and she was born in Israel. So again, we love the country of Israel, and we'll do everything we can to support them.
Wow.
Are they trying to kill everybody? Is that what's happening here?
I don't know what's going on here. I
But
mean, it's
so the
bad news, though.
guy that runs the NSA and the CIA's backbone is also an APAC guy, as admitted in that video, and his sole focus seems to be on the renewal of Israel. And he wants us
And
to take
mRNA vaccine
mRNA
technology
vaccines to like cure
perpetuated
cancer.
by AI into the blood of
This
every
is
single person that we say
crazy.
has cancer.
This is crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I will say something, though. Actually, can you go back to that thread? I will say something, though. The AI in the medical industry is kind of a good thing.
It could be.
If you look at the rate at which they screw up in terms of detecting things in MRIs and CAT scans and X-rays and things it's astronomical. It's very, very, very high.
AI will be useful in robotic surgeries too. There are a lot of applications for it.
In fact, I think that when we talk about medical mistakes, people that die because of medical mistakes,
malpractice,
it's like something like 200,000 people a year.
Because of user error and things like that.
Because of
medical
errors,
yeah.
right? Medical errors. That's the word I was looking for. That's the term I was looking for. Thank you. So AI, in terms of having a second pair of eyes on MRIs and CAT scans and X-rays, that's a good thing. What he's talking about with mRNA vaccines and the fact that it's Oracle, it was created by the CIA. Like this is. You can look this up. There's mainstream articles about this. It was created by the CIA. It's just like Palantir. They got their funding through In-Q-Tel, which is a a CIA venture capital firm, and we have this guy somewhat close to the Trump administration these are not the people that you want in
Cameron,
the government.
are we drawing conclusions where there are none?
Sorry, I didn't catch that. I'm sorry.
Are we
One more
drawing
time?
conclusions? Are we being tinfoily? Is there
No.
nothing here?
Look, Dave's point is the right point, right? It's not that any of these actions, executive orders, well, some of these executive orders obviously are antithetical to the interests of the United States. Obviously, the ones that favor Israel, but it's not so much that artificial intelligence or that any of these companies involved in the government are bad. It's the people that are directly in charge. It's the elites. Look, the premise of Donald Trump as a transformative revolutionary candidate is that a system can save itself. That if you change the figurehead of a corrupt, decadent, backward institution or organization, that all of a sudden everything will change. That's the mirage that Donald Trump represents. It's worth noting that right behind the presidents during Trump's inaugural address sat Miriam Adelson.
Right behind
Miriam
him, yeah.
Adelson is probably the most important donor of the Trump administration reelection campaign, okay? In other words, we have not had a turnover of government. It's continuity because the elites that dominated the Biden administration are basically the exact same elites that dominate Trump's administration. Again, this is where we're headed. Trump is just a mirage. He does not represent transformative change. To the extent that Trump is untoward, I don't think he is. I don't think Donald Trump is untoward. I think he is sincere in some of these efforts. But Donald Trump is overwhelmed by a system that doesn't represent him. And it's noteworthy that if you go back and look at Donald Trump's speech, which I did, I went back and read through it, and it's very sort of confused, and it doesn't have a clear sort of flow, which is reflective of Trump himself. He states at the outright, he says, the government is dysfunctional. It can't handle basic crises. He says that in his speech. He's exactly right. And then he says, I'm going to use that very same government to solve all your problems and make America the greatest country in the world. That doesn't make any sense. And that's the problem with Donald Trump. This is exactly what bedeviled him in his first term. He had to fight the government itself first before he could do anything else. As far as I can tell, Donald Trump has not learned that lesson whatsoever. All he's done is accepted that the elites are in control.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think that this is best evidenced in his immigration executive orders. I hate to dump on everybody. I know that we're experiencing a lot of hope, and by we I mean you guys,
I'm
the
hopeful.
audience. Why? I mean, I'm hopeful for the reason that Cameron is hopeful. I have no hope in the Trump presidency. So nowhere have I seen people as delusional as I have with these immigration executive orders. So let's go through these a little bit if you want to pull up this link.
This one? Yeah.
Excuse me. I have a link of executive orders.
This one, yeah.
Yeah, you got it from Axios.
Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. Boom.
Okay, so Trump declares national emergency at Mexico border. Would you mind reading this? Sorry, I got a cough for a second.
Yeah, not a problem. Trump declared a national emergency at the Mexico border. Trump designated certain international cartels and organizations such as Terran de Aragua and MS-13 as foreign terrorist organizations and announced his plans to invoke the Alien Enemies Act.
He's resettling the
against
1,600 Afghans, and then he's terminating all categorical parole programs that are contrary to the policies of the United States. Okay, he's also doing the Remain in Mexico policy, which we're familiar with from his previous term. And then what everybody's talking about is Trump Birthright Citizenship Executive Order. We have a video on this one.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me.
The mic, it doesn't matter how much you turn away from the mic, it still picks it up.
I'm sorry. I know.
we need like a button.
And also,
Like a mute button.
I need you to cue up the next clip when the camera's on us, not when it's on the...
I'm sorry.
It's okay. We're learning, and you're dealing with...
This next order relates to the definition of birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment of the United States.
Good. That's a good one. Birthright. That's a big one.
What about that one in the course? That one is likely to be challenged.
Could be. We think we have good grounds, but you could be right. I mean, you'll find out. It's ridiculous. We're the only country in the world that does this with birthright, as you know. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. But, you know, we'll see. We think we have very good grounds. People have wanted to do this for decades.
Sir, this is a proclamation declaring a national emergency.
All right.
Okay, so this is immediately going to get knocked
It
out.
already is.
Oh.
The courts are already challenging.
Yeah, they're already challenging it because of the Wong Kim Ark case.
It as soon as he finished his
As soon as he
signature.
finished signing it. So I don't have a lot of hope for this. But what I really am most worried about is that I'm not really sure that this matters because Trump has said so much stuff about legal immigration. We have this Kaj Patel clip of towards the end there. Of the American dream belongs to the entire world. But first, Trump also was talking about there will be tons of legal workers coming for new jobs. If
it's
you
next
keep scrolling
page.
down, next page. Sorry, buddy. In the green.
Fine with legal immigration. I like it. We need people, and I'm absolutely fine with it. We want to have it. We need it because we're going to have a lot of companies coming in to avoid tariffs. You know, if you don't want tariffs, all you have to do is build your plant in the U.S. So we're going to have a lot of workers coming in, but we have to have legal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super hopeful about this birthright citizenship thing. We're going to have all these legal immigrants, just a slew of them. And then this I found particularly distasteful. Kaj Patel talking about the American dream belonging to the entire world.
I am living the world's American dream. I am the son of lawful immigrants. We worked our tails off just like you all do, and I'm going to make you a deal. I promise you I will never quit on your children. I will never quit on their children because this American dream does not belong to me. It does not belong to them. This American dream belongs to the world.
Belongs to the whole world.
It belongs to the whole world. So, okay, we're going to
Great.
deport how many Mexicans a day? 300 a day?
We
or
had
something?
308 yesterday, I believe, that were deported.
I
Do
know-
we have the math?
Arrested is different,
Yeah,
right?
there's a Vince tweet on this. 300 a day. Scroll up.
Is there?
Yep.
Oh, there we go.
We did the math.
Did the math.
We did the math.
and it's not going to happen.
And he got banned by the calculator. 6 million divided by
Yeah, it says
91 years.
if we're deporting 300 a day, it'll take 91 years to deport even just the 10 million that crossed under Joe Biden. And 300 a day is kind of like they were arrests, right? So it's like a lot of people say Barack Obama deported more people than anyone, but really when you look into it, and I looked into this, I did a whole show about this. A lot of them didn't even lead to ERO removals. They didn't even lead to the removal of these people. So there's a difference between an arrest and an actual removal of the person. And so to deport even the 10 million that crossed under Biden, you would have to have a lot more than 300 a day. I didn't do the math on this, but they say that it's logistically impossible. They say it's impossible. We can't deport all these people.
Of course they
It would take, we can't do this with this many agents. It's like,
well, I mean,
the Germans figured out a way to cremate
No, they didn't.
6 million people with only 2 crematoriums in 2 years. You would think that tech would be better and I'm not saying we should cremate them. I'm just saying like somehow they figured out how to gas and cremate 6 million people with 2 crematoriums.
It's
you would
tragedy.
think that
And
we
we
can
can't
deport 10 million. We can't deport 10 million people. That was 100 years ago.
We
almost.
need to deport 40 million people.
There are I heard, so I've been hearing the numbers all over the place, right? Like I remember like, was it 15, 20 years ago? It was 20 million.
It was 11 million from like 1990 to 2018.
They still say 11 million.
They still officially say, I think 11 million. And then we had Trump come out and say like 20 million. And then we had other people come out and say 40 million. I've been seeing tweets that it's 80 million. I don't know how many million it is, but at least 10 million of these people have got to go at the very least. And we've got 6,000 Customs Border Patrol agents or ICE agents.
How many do you think we need?
6,000. Well, I think we need at least 100,000 agents.
Yeah.
I think we need
to
at
deputize
least
people.
100,000. Well, now, and this is
That would
something
be so
that I did.
awesome. What do
wanna
the
bring up.
American people want, though?
There is a way, and it doesn't show it. Maybe if I
Actually,
zoom in.
Harrison Smith had a really good idea. I don't know if you saw his clip on this.
No.
But Harrison Smith
No, I
from
didn't.
InfoWars. He said if you just you tell them, you basically make an announcement. You say we'll give you free trips back to your home country, like all expenses paid. We'll put you on good flights. We'll pay for your hotels or whatever back there. and take these flights. If you don't, we're going to put you in work camps.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
that.
I love it.
Like, and it's just an announcement. It doesn't cost anything.
Right.
You just,
You can just
I
say
mean,
that.
the flights.
You
know, the
can
flights,
just say things, you know.
just say
You
things.
can just say
Right,
things.
just say
But what I was going to point out is that there may be a mechanism that I want all of the people that watch this show to take under consideration, bring it home with you, and that is ICE's 287G program. And this is a way for people to get your local sheriff, your local law enforcement, to create a mutual operating agreement with ICE. And your local sheriff's department can actually start that process of deporting them, of housing these illegal aliens, and getting the ball rolling, right? So if we only have 6,000 ICE agents, if we can start relying on like the sheriffs to start picking up some of that workload, well, then all of a sudden, we don't need to, radically expand funding for ICE. We can just rely on the local and state law enforcement. So the 287G program is something that should be looked into because even in Idaho, I was seeing Senator Brian Lenny. Did you hear about this? Yeah, Senator Brian Lenny's family was hit with a car while they were driving by an illegal alien. The Idaho State Police let the illegal alien go. No driver's license, no registration, no insurance, and they let him go after he hit this family. So my point is that this is something that everybody can do. We can all write an email to our sheriff, place a phone call, put some pressure, promise some campaign donations.
Email your whole state legislature.
Yeah.
You can do it all in one email.
Because there is widespread support for this policy.
Yes, there is. Let's bring up.
Yeah, is it like 50-something% or?
We have a video on this.
Don't step on my transitions, Vince.
Oh, sorry.
I will cough all over you.
Oh boy.
Legally. And so I think the American people are going to give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt to do what he wants to do, at least if you believe these blunt questions you meant in immigrants. So we have slightly different questions, but these were all taken within the last month. And there's real uniformity here. That's what I really think you see. You see real uniformity. Deport all immigrants who are here illegally. 55% of the New York Times. Marquette, 64%. CBS News, 57%. ABC News with a slightly different question, 56%. So what you're seeing essentially here is a very clear indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt question, which I believe gets at the underlying feelings, do in fact want to deport all immigrants who are here illegally. There's no arguing with these different numbers because they're all essentially the same across 4 different pollsters.
So if they say yes today-ish, how has that changed over time?
Yeah, this is where I think you get very interesting. And so we'll take a look at that ABC News question in particular because you can really see that there's been a massive shift from when Trump was first getting into office 8 years ago, right? Deport all undocumented immigrants. You go back to 2015, I'm going to come to your side of the screen, it was 42%. Hello. Go to 2016, it was 36%. Look at where we are now. This was taken at the end of last year, 56%. This is 20 points higher than it was just before Trump got into office the first time. So feelings towards immigration in this country, feelings towards undocumented immigrants and deporting all of them have become considerably more hawkish. And I think that gives Donald Trump much more leverage to go with the American people and sort of have these hawkish, some might say harsh, different rhetoric and also issue-based sort of going after immigrants who are here illegally. And so I think the American people are going to give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt to do what he wants to do, at least.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah,
now,
totally.
but can I point out that was CNN?
Yeah.
That was
crazy.
CNN.
There's no way it's that low.
Cam.
So just give me a moment to speak about this because this entire issue is a demonstration of the stupidity of Donald Trump, a man who, just for the record, I think is seemingly unqualified to be president. And he's not qualified to be president because he's just not very smart. He doesn't have executive capability. I don't think he ever has. He's a marketing guy who thinks that making declarative statements is how you run a government. Obviously, it doesn't. And so the executive orders, they sound great. What do they actually achieve in terms of implementation? Not very much. There is a very specific program that he should have set in motion on day one. Of course, he didn't do that. The first thing he needs to do is declare the Insurrection Act. The Insurrection Act gives him broad powers to harness the power of the U.S. military to basically supersede domestic law and expel people. Now, he took steps to doing that. He said there's a state of emergency on the border, But that's not the same as the Insurrection Act. And my understanding is that in 90 days, he's going to be given a report from the Director of Homeland Security about our progress. Why are you waiting 90 days? Why would you even do that? Declare the Insurrection Act. The next thing he could do is impose strict fines, potentially jail time for hiring illegal immigrants in the private sector, attack the corporations that hire these people, attack the public school system that gives them free education, free lunch, whatever, okay? We know that the public school system is flooded with illegal immigrants in California, Texas, other states like that. In addition to that, he can expand the meaning of criminality for non-citizens. So for minor infractions, he can force them to repatriate. Now, the other thing that he could do, and a lot of what I'm saying, by the way, is based on a proposal for remigration that was written by a guy named Martin Sellner in Austria, who briefed the Freedom Party, the right-wing party in Austria, on a plan for how to actually repatriate large numbers of refugees, asylum seekers, and other non-Austrians or Germans in the country. And they have a lot too. In addition to the steps that I met, do a trade deal or negotiate some kind of an agreement with a foreign power. Give them some goodies in exchange for repatriation, okay? Trump says he's a deal maker. He could absolutely do that. Do we have things that other countries want? Absolutely, okay? He's got to build the wall. All of that should fall under the rubric of the Insurrection Act. Now, this is very important. In order to do any of that, you've got to clean up the government. So you got to go into ICE, you got to go into DHS, you've got to go into the FBI, and you got to fire everybody and replace them with your people who are going to implement this program. I have seen no evidence that any of this will be done. Instead, he's going to rinse and repeat what he did when he was president, which means everything gets bottled up in the courts and nothing changes. This is the problem with Donald Trump.
I know you're right. I just don't want to hear it. I still don't want to hear it, you know? How does this make you feel, Vince?
Talking about deal making, I saw something on Twitter where he made some deal with India that they were like, okay, we'll take back our illegal aliens that you have there that are Indian, but you have to give us grace on the H-1B visa applicants or something like that. I saw something somewhere about that. But you know, if you were to deport like tens of millions of people, just like 10 million people, I would be fine with like trading the 30,000 whatever H-1B or whatever.
Cameron,
but
what
that's
kind
not
of
what's
deals
going to happen.
What kind of deals do you mean?
Well, he could give economic assistance, right? He could. There's any number of things he could give. Certain technology, maybe military equipment. I don't know, but there's any number of things that countries overseas want from us. We negotiate with foreign powers all the time. Now, obviously, you're not going to be able to do that with a crime state like Mexico, but we have immigrants from all over the world, okay? And I'm not even being creative. There are any number of ways to do this, but acting like this is a regular declarative statement that you make and all of a sudden everything gets fixed, which is the reflexive position of Donald Trump, that's not going to fix anything, okay? He's got to have a program in place that drives this and implements this into reality. Again, where is it? Why wait on the Insurrection Act? Why not appoint a special military officer that's in charge of all of this? What's the timetable to build the wall? How much money is going to be allocated for that? Who's in charge of it? Do we have civil engineers do it? Do we have the Seabees build it? These are questions that should have been answered months ago when Trump was preparing to come in. Where is it?
Why do you believe he is not doing this?
Because I think that Donald Trump lacks the executive capacity to do any of the things that I mentioned.
But
Donald
he surely
Trump
knows he can do this.
He's an old man, okay? I think he's very fragile. I don't think he is somebody that understands or commands the details. When I think of Donald Trump, I think of a guy who walks into a restaurant, looks at the menu and says, oh, this is great. He never goes back into the kitchen to see how the food is prepared. That's Donald Trump. He thinks that he's going to change the intelligence agencies by appointing Tulsi Gabbard. Is he out of his mind? These are institutions that have rotted to the core for decades. You're going to have to reorganize the entire intelligence apparatus in the United States. He thinks that he can issue a decree or through an executive order, and all of a sudden, abracadabra, it'll all get fixed. this is exactly how he was in his first term.
That's
the man
true.
has learned
But there must be somebody
nothing.
in some sort of advisory role
more.
that's telling him that he can do these things, that it's possible to actually achieve
the
these.
problem. The problem is that it's fine that he's not a politician. It's fine that he doesn't know how to govern, I guess. It's fine that he was a real estate agent or whatever, or really not real estate agent, but real estate mogul guy or whatever. He's not a politician. It's okay. Delegate. Make sure that you have a machine around you that are of people that are going to do the things that you promise to the people. Right.
And he was always a poor judge of character.
That's the problem. He delegates to the wrong people. If you delegated these things to the right people, the people that actually want to get things done, these things done, then it would be fine.
Right. Paired with
the other thing, Rebecca, too, is, and again, I know these things are a bit hard to believe because you might think, oh, well, this is sort of common sense. But if you read his inauguration address or you go back and watch the speech, it was just a stream of consciousness of ridiculous promises of self-aggrandizement of I'm going to do A through Z. What it lacked, and I went back and I looked at FDR's inaugural address in 1932, and I looked at Lincoln's in 1861 when he became president, and I looked at his second inaugural address. Lincoln's inaugural address was about slavery and secession. That's what it was about, okay? FDR's in 1932 was about the state of the economy, the crisis that we're in. Trump's was a jumbled mess. Now, there was a lot of good stuff in there, for sure, but we need a program. We need focus. We need disciplined leadership. Trump is none of those things, and I think that is self-evident. Just listen to the man talk.
I will say that it's interesting. There's this, you were talking about not being a good judge of character and, getting the team on board behind him. And I saw this exchange on Twitter unfold between OpenAI and Elon Musk. Where they had announced this AI project that we've been talking about with Larry Ellison, right? And SoftBank had come out and said that they were going to give, $500 billion or whatever. And Elon Musk comes out like moments after they just had this like big to-do in the White House, and he starts undercutting the president, saying, oh yeah, they don't actually have any money. SoftBank has well under $10 billion secured. And then Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, fires back. And it's like, none of these guys... I don't like any of these guys. I don't like Sam Altman. I don't know how I feel about Elon Musk after what happened with the immigration debacle. And now they're fighting with one another, like right under Donald Trump's nose. Like that's
about how
really,
much money they.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that's not really a way to serve the president. I mean, you're kind of like outshining this guy. I mean, like, what if you tank this guy's deal? Now, then again, maybe the deal deserves to be tanked. Maybe Elon is actually doing a solid thing, trying to chase these guys out. I don't know.
Well, it massively undermines confidence because it's obvious that nobody has any idea what's going on.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Cameron, you're right. This is hard to believe. Even somebody that has had their worldview totally shaken in the last 10 to 20 years, I still have a hard time believing that government officials that have been working there and these bureaucrats just don't really understand how things work. I would imagine the audience is having a similar problem, thinking that these people are incompetent or ignorant of the inner workings of the federal government.
Look, you just have to remember that getting elected president is a Goliath effort, okay? I mean, my guess is that 80% of the time Donald Trump spent thinking about anything, it was about winning the election. And if you go back to his speech, there's a sense of victory in Donald Trump, a sense of jubilee. I did it. I crossed the finish line. That's not true. The war has just begun, okay? Nothing has been resolved. It's great that he was reelected. I'm glad that the January 6 people are out. But that's the nature of the political world that is America. You spend so much time, you're so exhausted by the process of getting elected, which requires you to raise money, it requires you to curry favors, so forth and so on, that the actual process of governing is a wholly different animal, okay? Never mind all of the invisible problems that we can't see. My issue with Donald Trump is as follows. He needs a program. He needs focus. He needs to focus on 2 or 3 things that he wants to achieve, not 50. And that has always bedeviled him. Never mind the fact, and bear in mind that this problem has never been solved either. The Republican Party doesn't represent MAGA. It never has.
True.
So there'll be a lot of opposition to what he wants to do in his own party. Forget about the left.
Right. And, that brings up an interesting point, too, because I think Nick was talking about this on his show last night. We don't have as much time as people may think that we do. Right. I mean, like, we've got basically this first year, and then as soon as the second year comes around, everybody's going to be thinking about reelection.
About reelection, yeah.
And they're going to be like, I don't really want to rock the boat too much. I kind of want to just do the normal thing. I want to go kiss some babies. I want to go campaign. I want to go do that. And so, like, if, in the second year, there's like a massive omnibus spending bill that like absolutely needs to be tanked, they're not going to tank it. They're going to sign it. So effectively, we have got 1 year where Donald Trump can make change happen. We've got 1 year where we can have and it's not a comfortable majority, by the way, in the House. It's actually one of the most narrow majorities that I think we've ever seen in Congress. It's like only 2 or 3 votes, I think, on the Republican side over the Democrats right now that we currently have.
Plus, it doesn't matter. You got Murkowski, you got Collins.
Right. We got a bunch of traitors in Congress that don't put America first, that don't have American interests at heart, that care about their money, that care about emoluments and, whatever. So, I guess my point is, like, I mean, I've been toggling back and forth between white-pilled and black-pilled, because you see some stuff that gives you hope. And I think that there is room for hope, but not like an unreasonable level of hope. I mean, like, I think we've basically got 1 year to see what Trump can get done. And if he is not at 80% by the end of his first year, that last 20% is never going to happen. And if we're at 20% at the end of the first year, it's never going to happen.
Well, Cameron's right. He's an old man. He's not incentivized to do this.
It's not even a matter of him being an old man. It's a matter of, like, if you look at the history of elections and Congress, whenever a Republican wins the presidency, the House and Senate usually flip to the other party. That's like almost every time, 9 times out of 10, that's exactly what happens. So, like, we should be playing the game right now as though we're going to lose the House and Senate in the next go-around. And I think that if they legislated like that, if they legislated with that in mind, like, hey, we've really only got like 1 year to get this done, I actually think that most of these people would get reelected, frankly. I think that a lot of the Republicans, people like Jim Risch, if they were really radical about the Trump agenda and making sure that that got passed and that these promises were kept, I think that they would pick up seats in the House. I think they would pick up seats in the Senate. But if they're trying to play moderate and if they're trying to do business as usual, frankly, I think MAGA is going to turn on them. I think there will be a backlash in 2 years.
You're still talking about using the system to fix the problems, though.
Yeah,
people are getting more radical, though.
That's true.
People are. I mean, the extreme position is no longer that extreme anymore. I mean, you just saw with the immigration, the majority of Americans are fine with deporting all illegal immigrants.
Right.
Like, that's crazy.
In 2020, I was 2016 to 2020, I was advocating for a net zero immigration policy. So as long as we're deporting as many illegals as legals we're bringing in, that's kind of where I was at, And I think most Americans were at a similar point where we were okay saying, not a total ban, but like a net zero policy where we're not adding more migrants to the country. Now it's like you need to, for every one immigrant you bring in, you need to send 10,000 out for every one we bring in. It's no longer net zero.
I never thought, and I don't think today, that Donald Trump is some kind of puzzle, right? A lot of people think that the man is unpredictable. I don't think he's unpredictable at all. I think he is consistently unreliable. He's consistently undisciplined, okay? A couple things that he said in his speech are clear reflections of that, all right? He said, for example, many people thought it was impossible for me to stage such a historical political comeback. But as you see today, here I am, and the American people have spoken, okay? Then he said the entire nation is rapidly unifying behind our agenda with dramatic increases in support from virtually every element of our society. And then he goes in to talk about Hispanics and Africans, et cetera, et cetera.
He left whites out of that, by the way.
He says national unity is now returning to America and confidence and pride is soaring like never before. Now, look, inaugural addresses are famous for flowery rhetoric like that, okay? But that's what Trump really believes. He thinks that this is his moment. He thinks that the country is sort of congealing behind him. The opposite is the case. The country is divided racially. The country is divided politically. Every effort on the part of the left to sabotage, undermine, and destroy his government will be taken, legal and illegal, just as it was during his last term. Donald Trump doesn't understand that. He's never been one that understands context. For him, everything is about what he expresses. It's this sort of outward sensation for him, right? In other words, it's whatever the narrative is that he frames in his mind. It's never the context around him. The context around him is as follows. His government is facing a fiscal crisis immediately. He left that out of his inaugural address, all right? They have a debt crisis that they have to deal with.
He didn't address the debt at all?
Not in 6 months, not in a year, not in 2 years. Today, all right? We have an immigration crisis, obviously. He mentioned something about that. Obviously, we'll have to see what happens. The third issue is we have very serious tensions with the Russians and a potential war in the Middle East on behalf of Israel. He's not taking steps to de-escalate those, okay? So my point is that the context of his administration, the political context that he's in, is completely different from what he thinks he's in. He thinks he's won. He thinks that this is sort of his swan song. It isn't. This is the beginning of Trump War 2.0. That's what this is, and I don't think he understands that.
You know, it is interesting to see what's going to happen with the Russia thing, because I guess I heard that Trump was going to have some sort of a call with Putin and ask Putin for some sort of concessions, which I don't think Putin will give.
No.
Which
No,
means
he
that
won't.
Trump is going to turn right around and say, we're going to smash the hell out of you. And then we're at war with Russia?
No. Putin is a measured man. He's not reactionary.
He rides bears.
He does.
True. But I mean, I'm concerned about that. I am concerned about the way that he's going to handle the Russia thing. You know, I am kind of concerned about the Middle East thing, because when you listen to what the Israelis themselves are saying, they're saying it's not over. It's not over. They're viewing the ceasefire as like a very, very temporary pause.
Oh, so is Trump. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, he said in his speech, basically, he said, I'm going to direct members of my government to fix the inflation problem. Well, Donald, that's not how inflation works, okay? That is an existential crisis that average Americans face. They can't afford groceries, all right? That should be number one on his list. The fiscal crisis should be number two. The immigration crisis should be number three. Even in that short paragraph, what am I doing? I'm sort of creating priorities. That's not something that Trump excels at. He's a man that fires a million bullets in all directions. And guys, I think it's going to destroy the man. I really do.
What do you guys want to get to quickly before we go to Super Chats?
By the way, Super Chats, you can go to thebacklash.net/super chat, and you can choose between powerchat.live, Entropy Stream, and Streamlabs. So if you'd like to ask some questions of our wonderful friend Cameron or any of these hosts that you see with us, we would love to take your questions and answers, yada, yada. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we haven't gotten to yet.
Do you want to do some of what the right is spurging out about, looking into with the hand gestures and such?
Let's take a look at this.
Might as well.
Yeah, people were freaking out about this.
Eric Trump was doing the Andrew Tate thing.
The
hand
Illuminati
signal.
hands. We've got speculation about Melania's outfit, which I also did. Oh, look at his face. Look at
Kushner's face. Yeah, not Eric.
No. Oh, good Lord.
Glad we're never going to be, or God, we are never going to be free of the Illuminati. Are you kidding me? These people.
That's like an Andrew Tate thing. It's like
no,
a
it's not even an
power
Andrew Tate thing.
yeah.
No. It's like when I used to do this when I was like, having like corporate videos or whatever. No, not like that. You teach them to kind of like hold your hands like this. If you don't know if you're like doing public speaking and you don't really know what to do with your hands
above the waist.
Don't put them in your pockets.
Right.
Don't fidget with stuff. Usually just kind of like fold your hands or do something like this or like that or whatever. I don't think it's like
this is obviously meaningless.
a symbol.
I'm
I
always
think it's
disappointed
totally
to see
meaningless.
people on the right spurging out about this stuff and assigning all this meaning because it makes us lose credibility as a movement. However, I did do this with Melania's outfit.
Okay.
Because I have an interest.
Now, I will
in
say
fashion.
that the handshakes are real. Like the Masonic handshakes are real.
Whatever.
That
All right.
stuff is-
You cannot tell me that this doesn't have Hugo Boss vibes. This outfit. This is a severe look.
This is yeah. She looks good though.
I don't know. It just looked weird to me. People are saying it was like Vendetta.
V for Vendetta.
V
Yeah.
for
Do
Vendetta.
I have? I think I've got a. I put it in there. Yeah. Here it is. I mean, it kind of does. I got to be honest.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And then we've got Barron, who has clearly been taking notes from his father. I think that he is teeing up a career. I know he said he's going into real estate. I think he's teeing up for a career in politics. He's not going to be the white nationalist authoritarian that we're looking for, but a girl can hope, right?
There's this video.
He was raised online. Who knows?
I know. He's a 4chan guy, isn't he?
A very tall son named Barron. This isn't the video that I wanted to pull up, though. There was this video of like Elon. Here it is. It was Elon Musk, and he's like standing behind Barron, like freaking out. Look at this. They're clapping.
Angry
or whatever.
Baron. Baron
And he's there
so
like,
annoyed.
You know,
He's like,
it's
this is so gay. Why do I have to do this?
And of course, you see Elon Musk, Howard Lutnick over
Yep.
here.
Yep. Yeah.
Is that Doug Burgum there behind?
Can't tell.
I think so.
That's funny.
And then, of course, everybody's talking about this Elon Musk Hailgate, which it's obvious that this was just a Spurg salute.
Yeah, the guy just doesn't have
Wait, have
very
you guys
good
looked
control
in?
over his body.
Have you guys looked into the? Oh, there it is. Yeah.
It's really
I didn't see
Hitlery,
the full
though.
context clip
like really
before that
He
one.
says something about his heart.
He
you
said
know?
something about
My
my heart
heart
goes
goes out to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that makes a lot more sense. A lot of people are sharing that, but I don't know. It's dumb.
But it's concerning because like the ADL rushed to his defense immediately.
That's weird.
That was very
Right?
strange. Yeah.
There's this, this
They're
is
like,
a
"Why?"
delicate moment. It's a new day, and yet so many are on edge. Our politics are inflamed, and social media only adds to that anxiety. It seems that Elon Musk made an awkward hand gesture in a moment of enthusiasm, not a Nazi salute. But again, we appreciate that the people are on edge. And it's like, if this was literally 6 months ago, they would have been calling for a boycott, economically terrorizing him. They would have been threatening all of his companies. And of course, the usual suspects are immediately coming out to defend Elon Musk, kind of tipping their hat,
Ben Shapiro.
tipping their hand. I apologize.
Tipping their cap.
Like, look at this. Elon Musk is not an anti-Semite. Here I am taking him to Auschwitz. Okay.
I'm with Fuentes, though. That was like really Hitlery.
And then there was the rabbi. Did you see the Rabbi Shmuley?
Oh, no, I haven't seen
As
this.
much as I, of course, hate anti-Semitism, racism, bigotry, but
Ugh.
especially hatred against my people, I hate false claims of anti-Semitism. What is being claimed against Elon Musk, one of the greatest friends in the world of global Jewry and the state of Israel, that he did a Nazi salute.
So wait,
Such
that
a
exists?
disgusting lie. I'm not saying
Global
this based
Jewry.
on video. I was there in the room at the Capital One Arena.
We're not listening to the whole thing.
Are we going to find out in years to come that he's actually just AI, like an AI
Rabbi
representation
Shmuley.
of like the most grotesque
worst.
Jew on the most evil Jew on the planet?
Jeez.
That's,
so I mean, it's
that's pretty
just,
crazy.
but I mean, it begs the question, right? Like this globalist, evil, anti-American, anti-free speech group, the Anti-Defamation League, has done a 180.
Mm-hmm.
They've gone from calling for Donald Trump to be banned from Twitter,
Yep.
which they did on January 6th, by the way, to now hopping up at the beck and call to defend Elon, to defend Trump. What does that tell you?
That they move with the powers that be. They're nimble.
Well, or
I think it tells you that
it tells you that they're captured.
They've been completely assimilated. Yeah, I mean, it's the fact that they're not using this to attack the Trump administration should concern Trump supporters.
It should. Yeah. It definitely should. Cameron, do you have anything to add before we go to Super Chats?
No, I think Vince got it. Vince and Dave got it.
Well, do we want to go to Super Chats?
Good job,
We
fellas.
can go to Super Chats.
Let's do it.
There's a couple stories that I wanted to give a big shout out to Jim Risch, Senator Jim Risch, for ending the Lava Ridge Wind Project here in Idaho. I will pull that up real quick.
Yeah, tell us what that is.
So basically, there was a bunch of BLM land in like southern Idaho that they were attempting to get all these wind farms put into. And the people were against it. The state of Idaho was against it. The legislators were, everybody was against it. And the Bureau of Land Management was going to still cram it down our throats. And so Jim Risch worked with the Donald Trump team and had an EO passed, which is basically going to ban it. It's not going to happen.
Great.
So that's a victory
They're
for
an
Idaho.
eyesore and terribly inefficient.
And while we're kind of looking at some local stuff, I also wanted to bring up, there's something very troubling going on in Montana right now. There is a piece of legislation that has been introduced that is basically a direct attack on the Catholic Church. It would compel priests to break the seal of confession, which is
in what
not legal.
instance?
In the instant, well, it basically says it would make them like, what is it called, mandated reporters or whatever. So if they hear about a crime in the confessional, it would mandate that they have to then go to the authorities and rat out the person that they.
Oh, that's lame.
Yeah, that destroys the Catholic faith. It makes the entire faith like not work. And the person that introduced this bill, if I can bring it up, is a Jewish representative.
I knew it.
In Montana.
I knew it.
Named, was it Cora Newman? Yeah, Cora Newman. She's a representative in Montana. She's worked with a bunch of extremely bad groups, the Montana Human Rights Network, for example.
And usually it's just...
Anyway, so she
That's
is...
Casey. We got to have him on the show.
Yeah, we've got to have
bring him
Casey.
in
Casey, by the way,
studio.
just got banned on Twitter.
What?
Yeah, he's locked out for reporting on this story, I believe.
Lame.
But yeah, so this it's anti-Catholic legislation that needs to get quashed. So if you live in Montana, make sure that you contact your representatives and tell them that you really don't like what you're seeing happening in the legislature. That would be nice. Catholics everywhere will thank you for that.
On that note, get your last minute super chats into the backlash.net/super chat. And I will start with this one that's left over from Entropy. If you did not have your super chat read or your Entropy chat read last week, please send it to me on Twitter through DMs. My DMs are open, blondes_tweets, and we will read it on the next show. I don't know what happened.
Dave has a bunch of screenshots from Entropy.
I didn't take the screenshot. No, we had it up.
Oh, what was that? What I was just looking at when I came here.
When we first opened it up, all the super chats from the last stream were loaded up in there, and I thought that we could read them out on the show. But then, as we opened our new live stream, it wiped out the previous super chats. Or
if you
whatever.
if we didn't get your super chat read, just send it again.
Or you can send an email to info@thebacklash.net. Or go to thebacklash.net, and we have a contact form on there. You can get in touch with us. You can send us a message.
Any of those ways, we will make sure to read it in the subsequent show. So I do have one from last week from Howard. The real question I had was in regard to Israel, Jewish power losing influence and control in America. If this does continue to the point they're not able to do so as they please and fully breaks down, how do you see all that playing out? More 9/11 styled events, more Las Vegas mass shooting events, random bombings. I can't see them losing their power quietly, and I've always thought it will become bloody considering how much they hate white people so much. So I wanted to hear your take on that.
Sorry. I was just trying to get Dave to switch to that new camera he's got because it's freaking cool.
I just saw you doing like a really lewd gesture.
Sorry. I was doing this. I wasn't doing this.
He's doing the Elon Musk. Let's do the Elon Musk.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I'm not sure I fully understood the question, but look, my sense is that what's happening in Gaza is a big deal, and that's why I castigated Trump the way that I did. It is a genocide. It is a crime against humanity. What's happening over there, and it's exposed this untoward relationship between Israel and the United States. I mean, it really has. It's put a spotlight on it. That I think has eroded trust and confidence that the U.S. government and our support for the state of Israel is above board. I think it has made a serious dent. Obviously, it hasn't changed anything, okay? What will change something? I think this coming war between Israel and Iran is going to involve the United States. I think we will suffer casualties. I think it will do real damage to the United States when that happens. That will, I think, wake up the rest of the country about this pernicious relationship between Israel and the United States through AIPAC. That further exposes the machine politics that our politicians are hostage to. Okay, that's how things change. But unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of collateral damage, probably for American armed services. Never mind what potentially could happen here at home through domestic terrorism. We'll have to see. But I think that is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. That's not going to change everything overnight. But in addition to what I just mentioned, which is sort of unveiling this festering corruption that's completely captured our government, to use Dave's term, is we need a new movement. We need a new party, right? It's what I talk about all the time. Until you have a political organization of sorts that directly challenges that head on in ways that Donald Trump refuses to do, obviously, then nothing will change.
I agree. He sent some other comments, but I don't think that that's what he sent on Entropy. So thank you, Howard, for that. We really appreciate it.
We do.
All right.
We're going to start over here, I guess, on Power Chat. And of course, you can get your last minute ones in at thebacklash.net/superchat. Bill Biz sent $25. The birthright citizenship issue won't be resolved until the Supreme Court determines the historical intent of, quote, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Right. Until then, the argument goes on.
Remember that whole argument back in 2018? Subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Everyone was arguing over that language.
Yep.
I don't remember that, actually.
I do.
Cam looks like he knows about this. Can you give us some insight?
Say that again, Vince.
What do you think about the Supreme? His point about the Supreme Court, like when the Supreme Court will need to take up this case, which I don't know if they ever will, but take up this case, or maybe Trump will somehow get them to do this. Take up this case to over this language of the amendment, subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
I can't speak to the specific language, but Ann Coulter's talked about birthright citizenship for a long time, and obviously it's been hijacked, right? It was passed so that we could confer legal status on former slaves. That's the genesis of that amendment, and I'm sure at the time that made sense. But it has since been a Trojan horse to demographically destroy the United States, and it's got to be overhauled. And Trump is absolutely right. Most countries in the world do not have anything like that, okay? This is crucial. My view is simple. I think this is going to be the last thing that will probably change as a consequence of any shift towards the nationalist right. I think it's coming, but it's not a change that we're going to lead with. It will be the result of a complete overhaul of the legacy structure.
All right. Emma sent $10. Chat specifically for Dave today. Uh-oh. I hope you had lots of family and friend support this week after what happened. I'm sure you're a resilient guy, but betrayal like that can really sting. God bless. Thank you very much. As a matter of fact, the support has been actually kind of overwhelming. I've been fielding phone calls from like monks, priests, like other journalists and activists and authors, like literally all week long. So it is very nice to know that like I'm not on the retarded side of that particular issue. Like, hello.
You are a grifting Fed, though.
I'm not a grifting Fed. I didn't blackmail him.
He has blackmailed me into doing the Nazi salute many, many times.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You just held a gun to my head and made me do a Nazi salute. Yeah, he's got it on video.
See, I have this thing about me where if I tell you to do a Nazi salute, like the person loses all free will and they're compelled to act. They have no more free will. So like if I tell you to do something, like watch out because you're going to be like sleepwalking and like doing actions that no. So anyway, thank you very much, Emma, for the support. It has been kind of weird and bizarre, and like I don't think people normally get attacked by their former employers in a way that is nearly as public as the way that this was. But we're moving on. We're moving forward. We're not looking back. Vessel sent $5. Sorry, last week's super chat racism was a character count fail. My point is that racism originally meant one who doesn't assimilate to the homogeneic white American culture, while today it means one who does precisely that. Interesting. Oh, yeah, that's right. There was this like weird super chat.
We couldn't understand
what he was saying. So, okay. Thank you very much for the follow-up. I do appreciate it. Vessel also sent another $5 saying, also, any pointers for an aspiring creative writer? What stories does our movement need to be contributed to art and culture? As a writer myself, I would say write every day. Just write about something every day. Keep a journal, maybe start a Substack. But like the easiest way to write a book is to just write a series of articles, exploring a particular topic.
People on the right do not want to read fiction.
No, I don't think
They don't
people on the
wanna
right
read
want to read fiction. And frankly, usually whenever right-wingers do come up with fiction, it turns into like the Turner Diaries, and it's like kind of icky. It's just like
the Camp of the Saints was fiction.
Camp of the Saints was good, but that was also like written from a very culturally sound perspective, from the point of view of a French Catholic that was like watching the country be de-Christianized before his face, and I think that was a really, really good book, and I recommend everybody read it. But
it's crazy when was that written?
It was like the 70s,
What year
wasn't
was
it?
that?
1974.
1974. Yeah, it's crazy if
I
you
paid
read that.
$300 for my copy.
Oh,
by
I
the
had
way.
that. I got that for 15 way back when.
15
now it's
bucks?
banned. It's banned from Amazon. It's banned everywhere. You can't find it.
You cannot find. It was because Steve Bannon came out and said everybody needs to read it. And frankly,
oh my gosh, the hardcover book is $2,000 on Amazon.
there you go. Yeah. No, it is. I think something.
That's not even the hardcover.
Something that I had actually
The paperback
discussed with some people was the idea of actually turning Camp of the Saints into a movie. I think nowadays with the technology
Just go
that
to
we
the
have,
border and there's your movie. Just go to the border.
it's true, but no, I mean with the green screen technology, with the Unreal Engine rendering, with
AI.
LED screen walls and AI, somebody could definitely turn the Camp of the Saints into like a real movie for I think under
They
a
did
couple
it.
$100,000.
They did it already. It's World War Z. Have you ever seen that?
True.
Where the
Wasn't that
zombies
based
are
in
piling
Israel?
up above the
That was the wall in Israel, though, wasn't
I don't know.
it?
Was it really?
I thought that like the movie like ends with like who was it? Brad Pitt. Like I remember like the scene where they're in the helicopter like mowing down, like shooting all the zombies, climbing the wall. I thought that was Israel, but
Maybe
I
it
could be
was the
wrong.
Western Wall. Who knows?
Aquarium Groiper sent $5. Yo,
we
what's
love
up?
Aquarium Graper.
We love the Groipers. They're great people. Unban them, by the way. Big Mad Lad sent $5. Blonde looks like a beautiful Aryan queen. Love the braids. The simping will continue until Cameron runs for office. Hail the backlash. Hail our people.
You should see what she
Thank
looks
you.
like in person. You wouldn't say that.
Terrible. Disaster.
Keeping it real, Vince. Keeping it real.
Warlock Wisdom sent $10. I'm just here for the brooding Scotsman. Yes, many such cases. I think that was a glaze for you.
We need a
Cam.
mute button on our mics for when we need to
have
cough.
Just tell me. I need to cough.
Just yeah.
What? Oh, I muted you.
Boy.
What's that? You guys have a problem?
Too
with
late now.
Oh,
Read that super chat again. Sorry.
I'm just going to cough in Vince's face for disparaging my IRL.
I don't even know which
The
cup
last
is mine.
super
I've
chat?
been wanting to get tea this entire time, and I don't know which cup is mine.
you're gonna die.
Oh, okay. There
You're
we
gonna
go.
get like strep throat. It's gonna be awesome.
I
No,
hope
which
so.
one? Are we talking? Warlock Wisdom. By the way, no to witchcraft. That's bad. Sent $10. I'm just here for the brooding Scotsman.
What is that?
That's Cameron.
That's Cameron.
Oh,
Who's that guy? Yeah,
That was
who's
a-
that guy?
that was a big
I'm
glaze.
all smiles over here.
Look at this. Look at that.
All smiles.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Got him to smile a couple of times.
That's good.
No witchcraft. There's a lot of witchcraft in Spokane.
There's a lot of witchcraft in North
Did
Iowa.
you
We should do
polish
an-
off the tea?
we
You
should-
son of a...
We should do an episode on that. Actually, it'd be kind of fun because
It's just filled with sediment now. I don't want that.
the Satanic Panic
That's all you get.
in the 1970s and 80s up here, up in Spirit Lake and Rathdrum, like it was pretty serious, and there was actually a lot of like really weird like child trafficking that was going on back then too.
Well, the Satanic Panic was about that, right?
Well,
like a lot of
Yeah. Well, there was the Franklin scandal.
But that
there
was
the
weird. That
Finders,
was
the
real.
Keepers.
Yeah, the
No,
Finders, yeah.
It was real, and it was happening here in Kootenai County, in North Idaho, around the same time that the Posse Comitatus was getting started in the 1970s. And no one has ever really explored that before. I think it's worth it. It's kind of interesting. Okay, Anonymous sent $5. In regards to EMJ, I hope you guys know better than to allow Fed-friendly objects and assets on your property or within your possession. Leave that to the feds, like that old guy cries as they strike you. Indeed.
What?
Yeah.
What Fed-friendly objects? What are you talking? What is he?
I think he's talking about GUNS.
Oh, good.
But like,
got it.
Everybody out here is
and I don't understand. Like, I mean, he has a thing with like, just call the police if you're in trouble, and it's like the police would take 15 minutes to get to my house. If somebody breaks down my front door, I've got to be able to neutralize that immediately.
I'm not saying this out of malice, but do you think it's
family.
possible he has dementia?
No, I don't think he has dementia.
Because his rant about us seemed completely unhinged.
Yeah, it was.
And
it was
really
not based in reality. It was
After
crazy.
you were so nice too, and that one.
Vince even clipped it out and like played nice little gay music.
So nice, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that he watched the whole clip, and I think that his assistant Mike Bajakis, who actually did blackmail him over Indiana labor laws, which not many people know about. I think that he's got a sore spot and doesn't
allegedly.
Like me. Allegedly.
Reportedly. Yeah, I mean, Dave was so nice. I mean, there was this one clip we have up on the Backlash Twitter account. By the way, you should go follow the Backlash Real Backlash on Twitter, where Dave was reminiscing about the days where he would go to work with Elon
Musk
with E. Michael Jones. He would ride on a tandem bike with E. Michael Jones in the back. And E. Michael Jones would have a basket, like a picnic basket he would be carrying, and in one hand, and the other hand would be wrapped around David's torso.
And then they'd fill it with apples together.
Apple picking is a big thing in Indiana.
Yeah.
And he was talking about in the last episode, and I think this is what E. Michael Jones was so mad about because he exposed this, where E. Michael Jones would actually cut the crust off of his peanut butter and jelly sandwiches before putting it into the picnic basket.
Yeah. The picnic basket.
Yeah, and they would go to the park and sit on the lawn and have a picnic, and then they would go to work. I'm not even joking. This sounds like a joke. This is literally what he said
Dave
last episode.
would make sure his little bow tie's on straight and just...
Yeah.
I actually would do that, make sure his collar was all set up.
Oh,
Yeah. Anyway, you
buddy.
can go back and watch old episodes of The Backlash at thebacklash.net. We've got all of our old episodes there. And be sure to follow us on Rumble, YouTube, Twitter. We've got all of the links at the very bottom of the website in the footer. So go to the Backlash.
And then he lied. And then he lied about you. And then
He
He did lie about me.
In the most
well, now that everyone knows, you might as well play that clip that you made, that compilation.
No, I don't want to. I don't want to. I want this to be done, and we can all just move forward with our lives. He can be wrong about that one issue, and then we can be right about it, and that's fine.
All right.
So anyway, Reinhardt sent $10.
Hey,
Thank you, Reinhardt. I love Devin Stack, but this is such a retarded take because if it was having any effect at all, it wasn't having enough to justify letting them rot in prison.
Yeah.
I think that's true too. And again, I think that them being out, like at the Old State Saloon down in Boise, they're going to do a whole week of January 6th pardon celebrations, bringing up all of these people that were pardoned and just released from jail. They're going to bring them up, they're going to go on stage, and they're going to share their stories. And frankly, I think that is going to be more radicalizing than like,
That's
that
awesome.
guy's still in jail. So
There's this is actually, I think, an interesting topic though, because I only saw the tweet because you guys sent it to me because I'm such a boomer I don't even read Twitter. But the question is a good one, and that is, what is it that's going to radicalize people? What does it take to get people really upset? I mentioned this in part because a couple of years ago, you guys probably remember there were these mass riots in France against Macron. And the cover story for that was because Macron was instituting pension reform. So he was going to raise the retirement age. But actually, my sources told me the reason why people got so pissed was because Larry Fink and BlackRock were in talks with the French government to manage their pension system. All right. And that the French population actually found out and they started burning shit down. Now, that's France. We're the United States. But the question is a good one. What is it going to take? That same question was asked when Donald Trump was prosecuted, right? When all of a sudden he ended up in court and people said, well, if he gets arrested, if he gets jailed, are Americans going to come into the streets? I was somebody who said, no, I didn't think so, because I didn't think Donald Trump really is that legitimate, sincere leader that would provoke people to a kind of backlash like that. But I could be wrong. That being said, we're going to find out, okay? As things become unhinged, we're going to find out where that line is. And just to be clear, I think it's the housing market.
It's still
I
streaming.
think if the housing market really broke, I think
It's just the
that
audio's down.
would get Americans into the street.
No.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I hope, because then we can afford houses.
Right?
You know what would bring down the housing
Wait,
costs
hold
is-
up. Okay.
Are we down?
Dave has accidentally pressed the stop streaming button. So
I
we're
just
trying.
removed it.
We're trying to figure out if
So
we're
I can't
still
fat finger it anymore. We're definitely still streaming. I just think it's on Twitter, probably a new stream, and on YouTube.
No, on YouTube, I'm still going.
No, YouTube usually continues the last stream if you do that. If that happens, we're fine.
We're good. Sounds fine. Everything's cool. No big
Okay,
deal.
good.
It was only for a split second, so I think
So
we're still up.
So anyway, so he was saying he thinks if the housing market crashes, that is going to be the catalyst.
I think between that and like a food crisis, I think 3 meals away from revolution is a.
Have you seen what's happened with eggs recently?
They're way up.
What's
in
going
price.
on? I go into the grocery store and the whole. I took a picture
Bird
of the
flu?
whole freaking. Is that what it is? The
I
bird
think they
flu?
had to kill a whole bunch of birds.
They had to call.
Well,
yeah.
they had to. I don't think they actually had
Well,
to.
I know my chickens have not been laying nearly as many eggs as they were, but I think that there's other issues there that are perfectly within my
The
control.
whole shelf was empty. There was
no.
1 dozen of eggs left, and it was like $12, and I had to buy it because we needed eggs.
Oh my gosh,
It's crazy.
That's awful.
I should just come over to your house and steal your eggs.
Muff Muffington sent $10. Hi, Cameron. I've been enjoying your Substack and YouTube videos. They're incredibly insightful. Do you offer one-on-one consulting sessions on geopolitics? I'd love to book some time and can pay you a few $100s an hour for your expertise. Thanks. Wow.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting.
He's like, I guess I do that now. Okay.
Yeah, just contact me on Substack.
Contact him on Substack. All right.
I love Substack. Substack is like it's like a mass emailing system where you can just like red pill a shit ton of people and not get spammed.
Right.
Did you, Vince? Do you? Because you used to put out good stuff on Daily Veracity. Do you still use that, or do you have a Substack?
I've been moving it all over to Substack.
Good. Yeah, you should do that. Yeah. All you guys should.
I have a
Dave,
Substack. I just don't know what it's called.
I've got like 300 or 400 articles that I would have to.
You have one, right?
Yeah.
Dave, you have a Substack?
I have one. I don't think I use it very often just because. Anyway,
I use mine a lot.
It's hard,
anyway. Yeah, I haven't been writing much anyway since I started writing about the corruption in the FBI. It's like,
Well, the solution to that is to write every day.
It is. The solution is to write every day.
My beef with EMJ. There you go. That's
Yeah, how about that?
Maybe.
I did it.
Part 1.
Reinhardt sent $10. People need to understand that we are never getting mass deportations. We never were. There are about 80 million illegals and 6,000 enforcement agents in ICE. That's 50,000 per day that we need to deport. We arrested 308. It's not happening. Yep.
Yeah, so we're going to get more immigration than people are deported because if we're getting thousands of whatever.
Right, if we're doing mass
H-1B, F-1, whatever.
legal immigration, then this is
and
not.
people need to realize that it's the legal immigration that's the biggest part of the problem. Right? If we have, 40 million illegals here or whatever, 100 million people, more than 100 million people we've increased the population by more than 100 million people because of legal immigration. Yeah. Without that legal immigration for the past 45 years, we would be at 200 million people in our population. Yeah. So it's the legal immigration that's the biggest part of the problem. The illegal immigration, of course, it's a big problem. If they were to deport these 1.5 million criminal illegal aliens, okay, great start. How quickly can you get that done?
Yeah.
Then that shows us if this is actually feasible or not.
Well, it is feasible, and you guys have
right.
heard me talk about this. It is absolutely feasible, but you have to have a a systematic approach to doing it. You can't just sign an executive order. You're creating a whole supply chain to repatriate people from the United States outside the country. It could absolutely be done. However, sorry to give you how the movie's going to end for the Trump administration, but no, it's not going to happen with Donald Trump. We're going to have to go into a kind of state of exception. We're going to have to see a breakdown of law and order, and I suspect that's coming. And when that comes, then you're going to see mass repatriation voluntarily. That's coming. It is absolutely coming. There is a racial crisis in the United States. Again, this is something I just don't think Donald Trump really understands. And if you read his comments, it suggests he's living in some kind of parallel delusional universe. We are a divided nation. Those divisions don't really matter when you have a kind of stability or prosperity economically. If that breaks down, all of a sudden, all bets are off. And I think that's exactly where we're headed.
Fair point. Just a Guy sent $50.
Yo.
Cameron, Trump just signed an EO to remove the United States from the WHO. Is there any possibility of removing the United States from the United Nations?
Yeah, we could. Absolutely. We could pull out. We also give the UN money. Look, we're a sovereign nation. We don't have to participate in any of that. But again, this goes back to Rebecca's point, right? Are we doing these things? Actually, I guess it was Dave's point too. Are we doing these things because of MAGA? Are we doing these things because of America First? Or are we doing them as some kind of a caveat for Israel? That's the issue. But of course we can do those things. Of course we can exit the United Nations. I'm not sure it's in our interest to do so, by the way. I'm not sure it's in our interest necessarily to categorically pull out of all of this. I'm not sure it's in our interest to be, what's the right word, confrontational with powers around the world, okay, which is something that Donald Trump seems to sort of flirt with from time to time. Whatever we do, we should do it because it's in our national interest, not for some foreign power.
And that's really interesting that you bring that up, because this podcast I was watching earlier today with Jonathan Pollard and Rabbi David Bar Haim.
You just like to say Bar Haim.
I love saying that. It's great. Machon Shiloh is the name of their channel on YouTube, if you want to watch. But they were talking about Trump withdrawing from the United Nations and setting up a parallel anti-United Nations that would also, feature Israel and all the other ostensibly, is their word, democratic nations, not actually democratic, ostensibly democratic. And yeah, I agree with Cameron. I'm not sure that leaving the United Nations is in our, because we control the United Nations.
But we need to do it.
Single-handedly control the United Nations. Our veto is what stopped, it's what allowed the genocide in Gaza to continue, right? We continually veto every resolution about Israel, every resolution about the war in Gaza, veto every single time. And it doesn't matter what, the 198 other members of that body are all voting to end the genocide, and we veto it along with Israel, and boom, it's done.
Right.
So
that's why they I was just going to say, that's why on that podcast, they're in favor of ending the United Nations.
Correct.
And creating a new United Nations.
Correct.
Because the United Nations is constantly coming after them for the shit that they're doing.
Right. And so that's where I think Cameron is very astute to point out that if it is in fact in our interest to leave the United Nations, we should. I think in the 1960s or 70s and 80s, you can see the radical right in America was extremely anti-United Nations. And I think that they were for good reason at that time. I'm not entirely sure if we're still in that kind of a world. We've had the United Nations around now for however many years at this point. It's obviously been, 40 years since the Ruby Ridge incident. So I do think things have changed to a certain degree, and I'm not entirely sure that letting go.
The issues that bedevil the United States are all internal. Okay, I'm not a huge fan of the UN necessarily, but that has little to do with our major existential problems at home. The other thing is that we've got to really cease and desist from the idea that the rest of the world and ourselves live in a zero-sum game. The world is very complicated. Our relationship with Iran, our relationship with Russia, our relationship with China, our relationship with the United Kingdom, in many respects should be myopic, right? So we should have interests, but not necessarily permanent friends. Instead, we've adopted a very different policy, which basically is you're either with us or you're against us, right? This is the Bush doctrine. That has not endeared us to large sections of the world, okay? And that's not in our interest, again, as Americans, in terms of trade, in terms of commerce, in terms of avoiding conflict. Trump seems to be sensible in the sense that he will sort of prosecute these relationships as one-offs, but he's got a lot of people in his administration that don't agree with that. And as we've established, right, it's continuity of government in terms of who's actually staffing a lot of his administration.
You mentioned Ruby Ridge, and I think you were talking about guns earlier too, because there was a super chat, and it made me think about this thing that I just learned. I didn't know this before, but the big joke all around the country was like, oh, never buy a sawed-off shotgun from a random person.
Right.
That originally comes from Ruby Ridge.
That does come from Ruby Ridge,
and I just learned that the other day. I
Really?
was like, yeah, I just.
Man, that's incredible.
Because he was the one who they were pursuing weapons charges against him because he bought a sawed-off shotgun.
No.
It
was much worse than that. Basically, a BATF agent approached Randy Weaver. Randy had just finished running for sheriff of Boundary County. He was running on an anti-corruption platform. He was taking shots at the mafia-controlled Idaho State Police and the local sheriff at the time. And the ATF and the FBI did not like that nearly at all. And so from 1988 until 1993, they doggedly pursued him and tried to get him to commit crimes. And at a certain point, I think it was in 1991, the economic blockade against Randy Weaver and his family became so severe that he literally had no other choice to put food on his table than to do the illegal sawed-off shotgun thing because they were like going to starve. And so a federal informant brings him 2 shotguns and asks for them to be sawed off. He sawed them off, charged, I think, $300 a gun, and gave them back to the feds. That was clearly entrapment. That would never have held up in court. And then they tried to use that against him to get him to turn into an informant up here. And so anyway, the rest is history. But yeah, that's where that comes from.
That's interesting because that ties into that Whitmer case.
And we are getting close, though. I mean, like there are rumblings. I've been seeing our local representative, Russ Fulcher, in the Congress calling for the ATF to be abolished. This is becoming a mainstream thing. And so, I would like to see the ATF go bye-bye. It'd be kind of fun to, go back to the old days before 1986 and take your pew-pews out in a very responsible way, not in an insurrection, not against the government.
And not in a sexual way either.
Not in a
some people might think.
Yeah. You go out and you teach your kids how to go hunting. You teach them how to defend themselves. It's like a very normal, everybody in North Idaho does it. If you go shopping in North Idaho, like 50% of the people that you see are going to have guns on their hips.
Open carry. Yeah.
It is an open carry state. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, a tranny went and testified down in the Boise Capitol with an AK-47 strapped on her back. Because
his or her?
It's back.
It's okay.
Whatever. Because we are one of the.
Hey, we gotta laugh. Hey, you gotta laugh. Let's go.
But we are one of the few. We are one of the few. We are one of the few states where you can actually carry a firearm in the Capitol building during session, provided you check in with the ISP and prove that the chamber is empty, that the ammo, whatever.
Do that, Chester, more too.
The clips, right? The clips, the magazines. You got to keep your magazines separate.
I just wanted to point out to the audience, because I know a lot of you are really concerned about this, but our human resource representative is Vincent James. So if we've said anything untoward or offensive, please send him a comment and he'll get back to you.
Direct that to Vince, our HR director.
We'll handle it.
Beethoven sent $10. I love regurgitating Cam's monologues to my friends and sounding smart. France's government is collapsing U.S. monetary issues. I'm a genius now, and I don't even have to do the reading.
We all do that.
Yes, this is why you should tune in.
As one Vince James has said to me many times, Cameron, where's the video version of the book that you recommended?
Where's the audio version?
Yep. I've said that many times. He sent me books, pictures of books, pictures of pages of books.
Where's the movie?
And I say, where is the audiobook? Where is the...
You're like a Marvel brain, though. Like you do. We've all got some degree of brain.
I was a little concerned, though, when
where's the YouTube
you asked
short?
the question about Curious George. I don't know if there is a movie version of that.
I need a YouTube short on that.
I don't know. I've been reading if you give a mouse a cookie. I've been reading that book like over and over for the past couple weeks. So I should get some new reading in the hopper.
Yep.
Don't start reading your kid Dog Man.
Isn't that a furry book?
Dog Man?
Oh my gosh.
No, but he is surgically, maybe. I don't know.
Cat dog?
No, Dog Man.
That's weird.
It's a weird kid's book.
I don't like that. I like normal kids' books, like the Brothers Grimm, like the scary books about like eating children alive.
I think
Those
that
are the
would
good
that
ones.
would traumatize Emmeline.
Look at the Germans. They're fine. They turned out fine.
Did they?
German fairy tales are good.
What about Where the Wild Things Are? Remember
It's a
that?
great book.
Yeah, she
Where the
liked
Wild
that.
Things
Yeah.
Are.
I thought she was ready for Finding Nemo, and she's been talking about how traumatizing it was in her sleep the last
Really?
few nights. Yeah.
We showed my my 4-year-old the Twin Towers the other day.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, she's fine with it. She's like, "Oh, those are the bad guys."
Are you
I'm like,
kidding
"Yeah."
me? My son's generation is like, it's like a meme. 9/11 is like a meme to them now.
Yeah.
They just like joke about it.
Yeah, they have
it's
no-
like, they have no like. There's no anything.
Is
I
my
think it's good.
4-year-old ready for 9/11?
I don't think so. We're gonna
9/11
we're gonna
memes.
keep the 9/11 stuff until they're much older. But like Lord of the Rings, I don't know. I think that's
Dude, we grew
Dave's
up
our
with
parenting rep. Yeah. So Vince is HR. Dave's parenting.
There we go.
We grew up with Goosebumps, Where the Wild Things Are, scary stories, Never Tell in the Dark.
Rotten.com, totally unrestricted internet access at age 10.
Well, I don't know about that.
Are you afraid of the dark?
Yeah.
Are you afraid of the dark?
You're
Yeah.
telling me you weren't using the internet to look at like suicide pictures and stuff when you were 10?
No, we didn't really have it. Like only like
Me
the rich people had the
neither.
computers.
Wow.
But you're younger, right?
I'm
Are you
37.
young? Oh, so you're
Whoa.
just only a year younger than me. But yeah, no, we didn't. I didn't have like internet access until like teens, like later teens.
I had internet access in the late 90s. And we had the first internet computer. Oh my God.
Okay,
It was
you just
1995.
said, you just made a noise when I said I'm 37. You just said the first internet computer.
The first internet interwebs and the interwebs.
I'm turning 36 on Friday too, by the way. We got to go get cigars.
Yeah, okay.
If
let's
you're
do
free.
it.
How old are you?
38.
Oh,
I'm the youngest
but,
one on the show? Wow.
Yeah, you are the youngest one. No,
Jeez.
but the thing is like only the rich people had computers when I was a kid. Like the better off people had computers.
Yeah.
And it was really crazy when you would go into one of your friends' houses and they would have the Gateway computer with the cow print on it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
I remember
oh
that.
fuck, you got a Gateway computer? Like,
Yeah.
I still remember using the old big floppy disk to play
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Math Blaster
Yeah,
and
yeah.
whatever games those were. I'm dating myself. We're all dating ourselves. We should be more
Anyway.
appealing to Zoomers. Muffington sent $5.
Thanks, Mr. Muff.
Trump might have to crank up the money printer, weakening the dollar. This could create a chance to ride a market blow-off top like 2021. Take advantage while you can. You'll need all the funds possible to weather the challenges of the coming years. I agree with
Don't
Muffington.
start talking about Bitcoin.
Cam,
Buy
what do you think about
Bitcoin.
that?
Yeah, so this is a good question. This is topical. So I actually was just at a conference, a gold conference, and a lot of people there are very bullish, as I'm sure Dave is, and they could be right. There's no question that the federal government's going to print money. We know that. The danger, to me, the existential crisis that the Trump administration faces, as I said before, is the fiscal deterioration of the U.S. budget. It's the bond market. As we speak, the UK bond market, so they sell gilts. We have U.S. Treasury bonds. They call them gilts. I think the yield, so the interest rate on their 10-year gilt is about 5%. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have trillions in our case in debt, it's massive. And that means that interest payments are becoming as big as defense budgets. Once you get into that scenario, then all of a sudden, all kinds of bizarre things start to happen. An example of this is if you go back to September of 24, the Fed basically dropped the Fed funds rate, and they have 2 or 3 drops since. And interest rates in the bond market, historically, they will fall with the Fed funds rate. The opposite happened this time. So interest rates on the national debt went straight up, as they have in the UK as well. This is an existential crisis, and the UK, I think, the government is going to collapse there. I know that sounds draconian. It sounds apocalyptic. I'm telling you guys, the PM over there is in big trouble. I'm in Canada right now. The Canadian government is in big trouble. The U.S. government, too. Trump thinks that he's going to sort of resurrect us through tariffs. I don't think it's going to go that way. I say all that to say this. Yeah, they're going to print money. That doesn't necessarily mean, however, that the stock market's going to go through the roof or that Bitcoin will go through the roof. It could mean exactly the opposite. I'm not saying that with certainty. I don't know. I'm just saying we're in a very dangerous environment now. And as I said, I don't think the Trump administration and Donald Trump really understands that. I really don't. They don't seem to treat this with the seriousness that they should.
You know, it is, and maybe Cam can speak to this, or maybe we're spending too much time on a $5 super chat, but like, look at what killed the Habsburg Empire. It wasn't war. It wasn't, any of that stuff. It was compound interest. Compound interest killed the Habsburg Empire, and they owned all of the gold mines in the West. And it became to the point where the interest payments on the loans that they had taken out became more than the gold that they could even produce, as rapidly as they could. And that's ultimately what led to the collapse of the Habsburgs. And that's the situation that we're quickly approaching here.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Dave. And look, you go back to the 18th century in France, right before the Revolution. There's a good book actually that I'm reading now, which is all about inflation in the lead up to that revolution. And they had a guy named John Law who was a swindler. He was a Ponzi schemer. Okay, he was a Bernie Madoff, and he basically persuaded Louis XV that you could print money, and it worked for a while. It did. And then the public started to ask questions, and they actually, this is true if you want to look it up, they hired actors and paraded them down the streets of Paris to convince the French population that they had found a new mine in the French colonies, and that new mine was going to backstop the currency. It was all a lie. It was a fraud, but it bought them a little bit more time. As Dave said, we are in exactly that same position, and the External Revenue Service is not quite the theatrics of a new mine, but it's not that far off either. We're close. We're close to the edge of a financial Vesuvius, a financial volcano.
That's very, very good. That's a clip.
That is a clip. Now we've got another clip, maybe not, I don't know, but this is probably the most important $10 super chat that I've ever seen.
Oh no, is this about Bitcoin?
No, it's way more interesting than that. From DSM URL, speaking of H-1Bs, I was the last American engineer at Rumble. They fired all.
What?
I was specifically fired because I was American and told so. I wrote locals.com.
Holy shit. Well, you call into if you're willing to say that in a super chat, are you under
I'm sure he hasn't signed an NDA.
NDA? I mean,
Get at it.
come on our show.
Come on the show.
Yeah.
We'll have you on. We'll do a special Twitter stream. We'll do a special live stream with you, DSM URL. Please get in touch with us.
Me or Dave
DM
or
any of us. I think we all have open DMs. info@thebacklash.net. We would love to hear about your story because that's concerning. I'm a shareholder of Rumble.
We love Rumble.
I own 100 shares. It's not that much, I know, but their commitment to free speech has seemed important, but not at the expense of American jobs. That's not good.
No.
That's crazy.
So DSM URL, please get in touch with us. I'd like to hear more about your story.
Yeah, it is concerning, especially because the Trump administration has been taken over by the tech bros, right?
Yeah.
And they have no qualms, as Trump hinted a moment ago, or the clip that you played earlier, about hiring foreign workers to come into the United States. So this is a crisis that we're facing. These are middle class jobs. This guy who worked at Rumble probably had a good salary, had health care, and it's gone. And no one cares. No one cares.
I care.
We care.
We care.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's even worse than just the tech bros taking over and like the immigration thing. Like they're legit, like they have legit ties to, like we just saw with Oracle.
With Larry Ellison.
Alex Karp, who said that he created software to single-handedly defeat the far-right rise in Europe.
Yep.
Like these are the people that are now like basically controlling the AfD and all of these nationalist parties. Like it's like way worse than people.
It is.
Than people think.
Yeah.
Muff Muffington sent another $5. Trump should target Customs and Border Patrol funding to dismantle NPR and affiliates, defund activist nonprofits, and cut academia's influence. These institutions fuel an ecosystem of neo-Bolsheviks working to undermine heritage America. Time to disrupt their stronghold.
So they should not defund NPR, and here's why.
Really?
Rebecca is incredulous every time I talk about how clownishly stupid everybody in the DC zip code is. For those of you who are equally dubious about that, about my claims, my rather voracious claims on that point, just listen to NPR. Okay. I think the last segment I heard, and I periodically do listen to it because I live in the DC area some part of the year, and it's just sort of the default channel that comes on in the car sometimes. Their last segment, I think, was about QAnon and how QAnon is taking over the Trump administration. So that's what you're dealing with in DC. And it is absolutely a mirror into the clownish stupidity of the DC elite.
Now, it's interesting. So your position is not to defund NPR, to keep it going.
I'm being somewhat
No, I get it.
facetious.
I was just going to say, because
yeah.
I passed a resolution at the GOP state convention in, was it 2022? I wrote a whole resolution calling for NPR to be defunded in Idaho, and it passed. And so that is the will of the Idaho Republican Party, to destroy and defund NPR.
That's what is the
Who
word?
listens to NPR in Idaho?
Yeah, it's like what is the how is this even like at the top of your list of things to? I'm talking about like boomer conservatives now, right? Like, why is this even a thing that we're like? Let's talk about other things.
Let's talk about immigration.
Like,
you can't walk and chew gum at the same time, right? But you know,
I can't.
It's like Trump saying, "No, there's only two genders." It's like, really, like,
yeah, we know.
Are
buddy.
we still on?
Are we talking about
this? Like, let's talk about the.
It is
10 million people that crossed in the past 2 years. Let's talk about. Let's take care of them.
It's kind of sad that doing the bare minimum like really riles everyone up. Like we're winning. And it's like, this is the bare
This is the
minimum.
problem.
This is the minimum amount of what should be done. We're on our last page of these.
Well, NPR covers Black Girl Magic a lot, so it'd be a real tragedy if they cut that program.
Anonymous.
Black Girl Magic.
License. Anonymous.
I'm totally serious, Vince. Look it up.
Black.
Have you
Girl
never heard
Magic.
of this?
No. What is Black Girl Magic?
It's like their racial consciousness about how being a black woman has some kind of inherent magic. It's Black Girl Magic. They say it about stuff all the time. I did a bad job explaining that, but you know, Beyonce's she's Black Girl Magic.
Yeah, Vince, you look like you might be an authority on Black Girl Magic.
I have.
I'm surprised
Black
you don't know
Girl
anything
Magic.
about it. As the HR rep, you should be intimately familiar with that topic.
I have.
We might
Black
have to
Girl
get a
Magic.
new HR rep, folks.
I think as long as
Not it.
Vince self-identifies as a 300-pound black woman, we're fine.
Well, he is.
There was a movie that was
Vince is
coming out
AI.
that reminds me of this. I have to see if I can find it. Anyway, I need to bring my.
We're gonna get your laptop in.
I know.
Thanks. By the way, this past week we had somebody send in some gear that we need to help make the show
That is
even
so
better.
awesome.
So this was like a nearly $1,000 piece of equipment. We've got another piece, I believe, coming from the guy. I put my own money in to get some more equipment. So we should be able to get all 3 cameras going, 2 laptops minimum, plus room to
I have it on
expand for
good
guests.
authority that this is the first episode where the audio has been perfect.
The audio was perfect, but I fat fingered the stream button. So like,
It's okay.
You know, we're moving forward.
Your set looks great, Dave.
Thank you.
I like the new camera.
Yeah.
The new angle.
The new angle
A
is
lot.
good with Cam. We can all look at
that's
Cam.
awesome.
It's great.
I don't know.
Hey guys, I'm gonna have to drop off.
All right, we'll see you, Cam. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
I don't know if that other thing is coming, but it says it's purchased on the Amazon wish list. We do have an Amazon wish list up at thebacklash.net. But
Cameron's right. We are going to have to hustle through these because
right, let's
I
go
have to
ahead. Let's
pee
get
so bad.
Hold on a second.
Why did I drink all that tea?
Now
don't know.
we've got this goofy thing
should
that's
have a
going to
bigger
be
bladder.
on the camera.
What?
Trio.
What did I ever do to you, Vince, besides
Main
getting you
shot.
sick right now?
Okay.
I hope you didn't.
There we
I
go.
for sure did.
I will kill you.
I drank out of your cup a bunch.
Jeez.
No, you didn't. I've been watching this. I've been
Really?
watching.
Because you said you lost track of it. You should check the rim for lipstick.
Anonymous sent $5. We're thinking about this the wrong way. The question is, what is the cost to get Cam next to Trump?
Oh,
True.
yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Wouldn't that be something?
Vegas 96 sent $25. Thank you, Vegas. Sup,
Thank
guys?
you.
Great show. Greetings to the best streamer, Vince. Are you guys black or white pilled about Idaho politics going the way of Boise? I'm gray pilled.
Black pilled about it, yeah.
Boise's crazy.
You
Boise
know,
is crazy.
There's been some stuff going on. There's this like fight that's been happening now between the Idaho Freedom Caucus and the State Freedom Caucus Network. And maybe we can actually have an episode about that. But
Wait, hang on. Isn't there the mayor is like gay, right?
Lori McLean, she's Jewish too.
She's
What?
gay and Jewish.
Yes.
Yeah, of Boise. So that just tells you
she's
how.
like an ADL person.
I don't know if she's gay, but she wore
not
these
gay,
gay
she's married.
socks in this pride parade.
She goes to the pride parades.
Okay, so the fact that that's happening in Boise just shows you like which way Boise.
People need to show up.
Anyway.
People need to show up for local politics. Warlock Wisdom sent $5. Liz Truss said in an interview that she tried to bring in reforms but had a metaphorical gun put to her head, preventing her. Are all Western governments compromised?
Yes.
Basically, yeah. Yeah. We haven't really seen an independent anything in a while. Big Mad Lad sent $5 for Cameron. We'll read this again when he's here next week. Cameron, would you ever consider running for office? You're a great natural leader with all the right opinions. We need politicians like you.
It's true.
It's true.
Totally.
We need the elite. We need people to go to
Bullion.
college. We need people like Cameron who are going to be on our side.
Yeah.
True. Mermaid Marie sent $25. Got to give a tip. Thanks for showing up, Rebecca, but sorry you're sick. Been looking forward to the show.
Appreciate it.
And let's
Thanks,
see.
girl.
We've got, how do I trigger this? Do I get to trigger this? Well, anyway.
Are you allowed to say trigger without being called an insurrectionist?
I don't know. Soaker City sent $5 on Entropy. The Russian Ministry of Defense has accused Bill Gates of bioterrorism, intending to cause population reduction. Massive implications.
What is
from
that playing
Slay
there?
News.
What is that? Look, it's playing a Trump clip while we read the super chat.
It's
What?
playing the old stream because I fat fingered it.
Oh,
So now
I
I
see.
see. Oh.
and we had that one from Streamline. That's it. We're all caught up. We got all of them. We are all there.
Thank you guys so much. So I have it on good authority that we're going to be launching some merch soon.
Yes.
And some products that we have been working on. I have a prototype in my purse right now. And that we are going to have a very special in-studio guest next week.
Wow.
Can you
Next
really call
week?
him a guest? Though?
Next week.
Next week?
I believe so.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You better be here.
Yeah, you're
You better
supposed-
not go
I thought we
anywhere,
were going to
buddy.
have Alex Rosen on.
Well,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
he's not going to be in studio.
Not in studio though, but he'll be on.
Okay, well,
We can bring him on.
Yeah, we could bring him on.
That'd be
you're
fun.
supposed to pick him up from the airport, so you need to get on the Telegram chat, okay?
Yes.
Oh, is that happening next week?
That's
Yeah.
next week.
Oh, okay. Whoops. Wait, I can't pay. Who put me in charge of picking him up from the
Thank
airport?
you for joining
volunteered
us
for it.
this week
all
on the
right.
Backlash.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it.
Thank
Check
you,
us
everybody.
out on X at Real Backlash. You can send your super chats to thebacklash.net/superchat or /donate. What else? Is there anything else?
Send
That's
us
it.
Bitcoin.
Send
Please
us a
send us
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Go to our website, thebacklash.net. We have a Bitcoin fundraiser. We can accept your Bitcoin there, and we would use it very wisely, not spend it, get a loan with it. So, anyway,
I didn't agree to any of this.
me neither.
Thank you for joining us. We will see you next week.
Bye, everybody.